Hey, boys and girls.
Hello.
Hello. Saturday night at the Atheist. So, I was pretty disappointed today. I was really sad. I was sitting in my chair and I got a notification on my new Apple Watch that Cel Cordova was going to do a thing on genetic entropy. So then my brother called and I was talking to my brother and I had the sound on mute and I started playing Cel Cordova's video. It's like, what the fuck? That's me. And it was like only 1 minute long. And he played a little clip of me from October of 2020. And, his favorite clip of me, his favorite little clip, the one that him and Standing for Truth played 15 times, right? And I was so disappointed because I thought I was going to have a Cel video to talk about. Nothing from Cel.
Rue. Hey, Rue.
So Cel and I, we have a mediator who was trying to organize a reconciliation between the two of us. And Cel thought that putting that video up today would help bond our friendship, seal our friendship.
Yeah,
do you think that was? You think he was wrong about that?
That was a kiss and make up type of video, I thought. Yeah.
Anyway, but I don't know. Let's see.
That's the Christian love,
right? Pretty amazing. I just happen to have a video. Anyway, when you cherry pick videos, okay. This is only 2 minutes long, so guys, if you can indulge me, but
but always speed up, Sal, because he talks, fairly slow, so you can.
Oh no, this is.
It's too much of a gem to speed up. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
just watch it.
All right. That's right.
We really need Benny Hill.
I think he hears. The the Spirit speaking to him.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. Yep.
Looking around furtively. I think he hears it.
Yeah.
He's not sure if he hears it. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it went away. But no, I think I did hear something. He heard the Spirit.
Yeah.
And let's see.
It's Jesus, Sal. It's Jesus. I'm telling you. It is.
It's really getting to him.
Yep.
But it's still there. This has got to be dealt with.
I think he should have hired Rebecca myself.
Did the audio come through on that, by the way?
No, just the music. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the music came in through just fine.
Okay. Anyway, I thought that was fair. That is definitely a crappy clip out of context because now he explains to everybody that he thought he had a mouse in his ceiling, right? And even John Maddox thought he was going nuts. He thought, what the fuck is wrong? Because I was watching this, live, and I thought, what is going on? What is he hearing in his ceiling? And I really became concerned for him. But anyway, yeah, you can clip shit out of context and make it look funny. I don't know.
Just wonder why he didn't flip it to his, his avatar and then mute it and then just do what he needed to do and come back.
Right.
Jason is suggesting something a little larger in the rodent section, but
Oh, rat.
he's
Yeah,
got it down as rats. Yeah.
it's a rat. I got to get Jason a link, by the way. Hang on a second here.
Good
I guess
old
that's a
Dr.
lesson there.
Jason Thorne.
Yeah.
Thorne. I called him Thorne. It's Torn.
He is a thorn.
Hey, Jason.
I would like to ask him a question for later on in the show about, but I'm not sure if it's definitely not his wheelhouse. But I got a notification about what the hell was it? One of the creationist geologists, he had a big legal battle in order to go get samples in the Grand Canyon, and they turned him down, and he had to sue them in order to get permission to go and get these rock samples. And then he studied the rock samples, and he wrote a bunch of papers proving that the Tapete Formation had to have formed in soft mud.
Sorry to interrupt, Speed, but you just have a black screen. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I know. I am aware of the black screen.
Giving people a chance to stare into the void.
Yeah.
Stare into the void. Oh, there you go. Okay. Anyway.
And now the void popped the video.
I thought we could play this little thing first, right? This is from Bread of Life.
Yeah, this is a nice little gem, yeah.
Okay. We'll go ahead and run this. See what
There's
happens.
a link to it down in the description.
Thank you, Scott.
Oh, did I put a link to this in the description?
Oh, I thought you did.
I haven't done it yet. I'm going to.
Never mind. Speed will shortly be putting a link down in the description.
Yeah, don't make promises that we can't keep, Scott.
I'm sorry. I don't want to overpromise.
Okay.
Biology.
Rebecca wants to come in too. Rebecca's here.
Rebecca.
Oh, great.
Yep.
That's it.
I mean, it's great that she's coming in. I just heard
it's
firecrackers in the neighborhood, so that's why I went, oh, great, like it was a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because that's going to scare my dogs.
Yeah, it is her channel, so yeah.
I'd love to talk to Rebecca sometime. I feel like
It's always great to have Rebecca on.
We're going to shortly. Okay, but we got some other things to play first, though, so we have to make sure we cover our stuff. Okay.
Far closer to phrenology, the pseudoscience of phrenology than physics.
Okay.
It's garbage science. So is evolutionary biology lurks somewhere near the bottom, far closer to phrenology, the pseudoscience of phrenology than physics. It's garbage science. So is abiogenesis. And I've debated evolutionary biologists on this. I've published in secular publications critical of evolutionary theory. And so if evolutionary theory is garbage, that's strong evidence there's a creator. And that's a start right there.
Why would that be strong evidence?
I use evolution to defend the creator. I don't understand why.
Evolution is the most well-supported theory in science. There's more evidence for evolution than gravity. Do you doubt gravity?
Evolution is one of these topics.
Statement. Why don't we watch the topoisomerase videos or something, enzymes that I study? I have a different opinion if you want to debate me on that.
It doesn't matter.
Evolution is the kind of topic
you guys have been asking, what evidence do you have? Now that I'm giving it to you and offering it, you're closing your minds and
yeah, but Sal,
well, you're making a false statement. You're making a false statement.
I'm not. I'm willing to defend it. If you want to hear this, rather than wasting time on philosophy, why don't you study the facts? Because I've asked
I say philosophy is dead. I said philosophy is dead.
They can't explain how that evolved. How can you claim that that's fact?
I said philosophy is dead.
That's accepted by faith. It is not fact. They cannot prove it. I've confronted it. I've confronted them with it. And now you're insisting. Now who's closed-minded? I'm willing to talk about this.
Yeah, but Sal, notice the
talk about it, but you're making a false statement.
With the statement.
Prove it. Prove it. Prove it without a recourse to faith. Your insistence is based on faith. It is not based on fact or theory.
Notice how you're marrying the existence of God with respect to the model of how life comes to be. You know, this evolution, non-evolution. How can that define the existence of God? It doesn't.
I don't think
defines
it
the
does.
miraculous
I think you're
creator.
right, Rob, that it doesn't. But this is the point I want to make about it. Evolution gives people an excuse not to believe in God. So when you actually strip away, you know,
But then
the
that's a
false
straw man
information.
against. I hate to say this, but that's a straw man against
Let me
atheists.
finish. Let me finish.
Okay.
Once evolution collapses as a model for a person, they have nowhere to turn except God. And actually, I think that's what the strength of this theory is. It isn't actually the scientific evidence. It's the desperate need to avoid God. And so this is why it is so
most religious people accept facts of science. Even Islam at 51% accepts facts of science. So it's just not true that it's anti-God. That's just that's not true.
Evolution is garbage. It's not science.
I'll say this.
It's a speculation.
So
well,
Rebecca,
you're just.
I just
Rebecca,
said, if you want to investigate this, look at the topoisomerase enzyme. I've studied this enzyme. I've published on it, and that's only one. And
Evolution is the basis of all modern biology and genetics.
Nope.
So he always tries to use that topoisomerase as a some sort of silver bullet. Has he championed other silver bullets before topoisomerase? Is this the latest silver bullet?
He's got one other one, zinc finger 136.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
collagen. But the topoisomerase one, Demeter has a lot to say on that because this is what Demeter does in his lab. I mean, this is Demeter's wheelhouse. And topoisomerase basically is really, really old. I mean, it's a really old mechanism, and there are all sorts of the story is very complicated, and it goes back. And Cell has never looked at that story. The only thing he looks at is the improbability of that protein popping up magically, right? Just popping up fully formed. That's what he looks at. And what he's not looking at is all of the different little pieces of that protein that go way back into prokaryotes and, to the beginning, basically the beginning of DNA. And he has nothing to stand on. And now him and Sanford have a paper, and I've tried to find that paper, and I really wish somebody would get it to me, because the only way that it is available is in abstract. The only thing you can find online is just the abstract of that paper. But it was, I think it was Cell and Sanford and a few others did a thing on topoisomerase that had something to do with cancer. I believe it was, and it was a reasonable secular paper. And
you think RJ would have a copy of it?
He might have a copy of it. I wish, because I can't reach out to Cell to get a copy. I used to have a copy of it, but somehow I lost it. So we got
Now, one thing too, I just want to note. Okay, let's put the issue of topoisomerase aside. That statement that evolution is, no better science than
phrenology,
and that if evolutionary science is garbage, then God is real or God exists. That is just
a false dichotomy.
Total non sequitur.
But I think
if the evolutionary model falls down, then you just find another scientific model. It does nothing towards lending weight towards the existence of a God.
Yeah, but
you have to have a model.
Rebecca stated it a little differently. I believe what you said, Rebecca, is that if evolution were proven absolutely impossible, we wouldn't have any choice but to believe in some sort of intelligent creation, right? Isn't that what you said?
Hi, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hi.
New Year.
Well, I think you would have a harder time. I mean, I guess you could still say, well, we just don't know. But I think evolution provides a lot of comfort. It's a nice security blanket for you, so you can avoid God.
No, I think you're mischaracterizing people when you do that, Rebecca.
Oh, you are really.
That's a typical evangelical altar call statement to say you find comfort in evolution. Evolution teaches me if I fell out into the jungle right now and just had a knife and barely any clothes on my back or whatever, I would die. That's not comforting. What's comforting about evolution is all the facts, all the experimentation, all the observations that have been made that lead us to these conclusions that we call the evolutionary model.
And what makes that comforting, Scott? Like, what about that is comforting for you?
Go ahead,
well, it's analogous to
finding
saying
a model that is consistent. But when I say comforting, I mean in terms of, gosh, I had a bad day, I couldn't put my model together, or gosh, what am I doing today? I tried this experiment and it doesn't fit any of the results. We do have experiments that do provide results, and when you put them all together, you have evolutionary biology. That's the only kind of comfort. It's not an existential comfort. Nobody finds comfort existentially or spiritually or whatever. At least nobody I know of personally in the facts of evolution. It's just not the way that's not what human psychology is about.
It's equivalent to saying I find comfort in quantum theory. I do not find comfort in quantum theory, yet it is still correct. Comfort has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Okay. Well, I think somebody, and maybe it was you, Scott, just a minute ago said, even if evolution were shown to be impossible, that wouldn't lead us toward, believing in God. So what do you think another possible scenario would be?
Well, a model, as far as models for speciation, we would have to probably go back and look stronger at Linnaean kinds of theories, or some other model or theory that we haven't looked at.
Evolution.
But the problem is, evolution is not going to be proven to be bunk or junk. There may be aspects, from different disciplines where they have their hypotheses and local theories wrong that have to be redeveloped. But it's not going to happen because we have facts that support the models we have out there.
Well, guys, that's where I disagree. I think it has already been shown to be bunk.
Evolution is a scientific fact. What's different is there are many different theories about how evolution works.
Yeah,
it's like saying gravity is a fact when there are different models of how the phenomenon of gravity occurs. That doesn't mean that there is no scientific theory of gravity.
And by the way, I just want to say I'm normally not this animated. I just had a delicious sweet potato casserole, and I'm sugared up, and I'm just excited. So I hope I'm not sounding angry or anything.
I really think that the feeling that you're talking about, I think that's more of a projection coming from you, because I think that your religion gives you a good feeling, and you're just trying to project that onto atheists, and it's just another typical thing. Theists are always saying that we hate God. That's why we rebel against him. That's ridiculous.
Read what Rue the Dot said here. It's a much more comfortable idea that there's a God and that he's taking care of you and that you're going to live forever. Evolution doesn't provide us with any sort of warm, comfortable blanket. It forces us to understand something really kind of scary about our existence, that we're going to disappear.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, and everybody deals with that angst over death. And certainly atheists deal with it far more seriously than you guys do. So I don't see why you think it's a comfort blanket. I mean, it's not at all. I mean, what? Yeah. Well, there's another angle to that, but should we finish this little part with Cell before we get too far? Because
sure.
I want to show the clip that Cell took out of context. I want to put it back in context before we get too far down the road with Rebecca. So if we could get our work done.
Sure.
Okay. So we got, I think we got.
Also acknowledge that Jason is in the room.
Hi, Jason. We love that you are here, Jason. Thank you.
Dr. Torn, good to see you.
Dr. Torn. Okay. Let's go.
Nope, it's
So when Darwin came up with this origin of species, right? There's a book published in 2009 called Darwin's Sacred Cause, Now here where it gets ironic, Rebecca. This is something that I think you'll find quite ironic. When you have the antebellum South and slavery and so on in the 1800s, right at the time when Darwin, was alive, right? Who actually was the one that designed the black slave with chain, his arms chained, and that slogan that says, "Am I not a brother?" Who is the one that designed that picture?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, or anyone in this room, but this is also to Rebecca. So that famous, in the 1800s, there's this, there's a black man on his knees, he's got his arms chained, and then underneath is a slogan, "Am I not also a brother?" In other words, am I not an equal to you, you white people? Who designed that?
I don't know.
Darwin and his family. And they actually made tracks because they were completely anti-slavery, anti-racism. He used whatever he could. So in other words, even if he went and paid his tax form, he would stamp that or put that there as a sort of a political statement because he was against any of this stuff. It was the Christians from creationism. In other words, they held to the fact, to the belief that, oh, see, you have the Noah cursing, Canaan, right? So, that's when the black race came from. And they believed that, European Christianity, this is more of an American situation, that Adam and Eve were like the white race. And then, oh, look, there's this new world, and there's these other areas, and oh, we don't know where these came from because the Bible doesn't mention these people, so therefore they must be this insignificant race and so on. And Darwin used Acts 17 verse 26, because Acts 17:26 says we all come from one blood. Some translations say one race, but the point is we all come from a biological unity. And Darwin used that verse to suggest, what if there's a monogenesis of both the black and the white man, meaning they are indeed brothers? So Darwin comes up with his theory for a unification, and the science of his day was against it because of the bias with respect to slavery and racism. And how interesting, he was using scripture and his model to defend, to not only go against it, but also he was using scripture. So that's what I find interesting with respect to the
Darwin
of evolution.
Yeah, Darwin did a little study in seminary, so he had a good understanding of it.
Okay, so left at that point. But anyway, so who is Rob? Is he a theist?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you guys He's a theistic evolutionist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Okay, all right. That's it. Sorry.
Yep. Okay, so who is Lance Bush? Is he a theist?
No. Atheist.
Okay, and Dave?
Atheist.
Okay, so you have two Atheists. Now, you had a guy in your room yesterday who I was really fascinated with. I think he may have been Muslim, and he was talking about phenomenology of spirituality or of the spirit. Which guy is that?
That's Anam, and he's a believer in Jesus as Savior. He's a Muslim, Trinitarian Muslim.
Oh my God! Okay, I would love to talk to that gentleman. I thought he was very interesting.
Well, I never heard such a thing. There is such a thing as a
yeah. There he is, right there. He's on the bottom. If you can, if you can see that.
Interesting. Yeah, I was listening to him. I watched a lot of this, but I didn't know that fact that there was actually Trinitarian Muslims.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty cool.
I don't know how many there are. He might be the one and only.
Yeah, maybe. I've never heard of it, so that's interesting.
Okay, so we only got one little part to do. I want to show people the entire context of the conversation that Sel cherry-picked of us talking, and we'll talk a little bit about that and see what happens. But I got it right here. Oh, can you make me full screen, Scott, or am I going to... Did we just do that again? Okay. Okay, we're good. Let's go.
Saying, and I think this is valuable because maybe I think first we may not state our position as clearly, or you may think we're saying one thing when we're really trying to say something else.
Okay, what are you saying?
And maybe this will help me maybe try to clarify what at least my goal is. It may not be the same as anyone else's.
Right.
So
it's good on that part. So I can't speak for other people, but my interest in Fisher's theorem was, it's an interesting theorem. I wanted to understand population genetics, and I wanted to see what the theorem said and why it was criticized. It was also a good way to understand how fitness is defined in population genetics. So that, what I tried to clarify in my paper is, I said, this is mostly a pedagogical explanation. A reviewer did say that this was good, that we can at least contrast that the term does have different meanings. And I did look up in the dictionary the definition of fitness, and it is along the lines of what I said. In the medical sense, someone can be physically fit. There's also the sense of someone being fit for office, for a certain office or a position. And then there's that population genetic definition. So there's definitely in the literature different conceptions of what fitness means. And I actually talked to computer scientists who work on genetic algorithms, and their notion of fit is also a little bit different. And I saw one computer scientist talk to Joe Felsenstein, and the computer scientist was kind of horrified at the evolutionary definition. He said, that's nothing of the way I conceived of it. So what I'm echoing is not unique to me. This is a complication when we use the same word to mean like 3 or 4 different things.
But it only means one thing. If you're concerned with how alleles change over time, you're only concerned with reproductive success overall. And Dr. Dan was trying to tell you that. That's all you care about, is that's what you're modeling. If you're modeling something else, if you're modeling how elementary or how organisms change in size or get bigger, stronger, and faster, or become, engineering marvels, then you're talking about an entirely different thing. If you're talking about human beings, versus the rest of evolution, we're talking about an entirely different thing. It could well be the best thing for the human race to get dumber and dumber until we lose our minds entirely. I mean, that may end up being the most reproductive. Now, the most amazing thing that I didn't notice at the time was the look on his face when he heard this. This was the moment when he decided to clip that, right? Which really kind of insults me. So, successful thing, right? But so be it. That's what we're modeling. We're modeling how genes change over time. Okay. So anyway, the whole discussion about fitness is Sel wanted to come at it from a point of, from some sort of, the point of view of some sort of engineering marvel, or, being better, faster, whatever, which is what anti-evolutionists are just absolutely obsessed with. And what I was trying to tell them is that when it comes to Fisher's fundamental theorem is a mathematical theorem, which you can prove mathematically. And there's nothing at all wrong with that theorem. It just tells you that the rate at which the alleles are going to change is equal to the variance in the fitness or in the population, something like that. But it's
I think Dr. Dan had a video explaining like how it's overly simplistic in some ways, but don't quote me on that.
Well, it is. I think I linked the paper in the description that kind of extends it a little further. And a lot of people have extended it. And it was named the fundamental theorem of, Fisher's fundamental theorem.
Right.
And it was fundamental because Fisher and his group actually created statistics, modern statistics.
Yep.
These guys created statistics in order to do their population genetics. And it ended up becoming a really big deal in our modern life that covers every discipline, right? So that's why he called it his fundamental theorem. But this was like in 1920, and it's about modeling. And so the point I was trying to make is, okay, imagine that there are 2 tribes, right? We have a blonde-haired, blue-eyed tribe that simply believes that the only thing that we can trust for sure is empiricism and what we can touch and what we can feel and what we can test, right? And they're a really, really intelligent tribe. So they're just extremely intelligent. And we have this other tribe that believes in, all sorts of tokens and spirits and things like that. And they believe that if they go into battle, that if they die in battle, that they are going to get immense rewards for dying in battle. and these two tribes fight each other. Well, this vicious tribe that believes that that dying is a good thing is probably going to kick the other one's ass. And they're the red-haired, green-eyed tribe. And so being smarter in that case would not be reproductively successful if we had these two tribes fighting with each other, right? And that was the point I was trying to make. I mean, there is no guarantee that humans getting smarter is going to happen or that it's a good thing. Like right now, I think people that are highly educated are having a hell of a lot less children. And I don't know if that correlates to how smart, but who the hell cares about IQ and how smart we are? The point is that all that matters is reproductive success. And Sel just doesn't get that. He thinks it has to be this engineering marvel. And I tried to explain it to him in 100 different ways. And obviously today when he put that video out, it indicates that he still doesn't get it.
Well,
so
it's that skewed Christian view of he's special, right? That's the Christian view that they are special. So that's
what you believe, right, Rebecca? That we're specially chosen and that we're far better than animals, than all the animals out there.
Well, absolutely, yes. And you know what I noticed in the way that you described this, Mike, is that for you, the smart people were the people who didn't believe in spiritual things, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's funny because
did I do to you?
If there are spiritual beings and if there are rewards for certain behaviors, then that tribe that was vicious was actually smarter than the other tribe, right?
Well, better
you're assuming, you're making a huge assumption that your worldview is true and makes someone smarter.
Rebecca, I did that as a little jab toward you for what you said about us getting comfort and evolution.
I don't think he specifically said evolution. He said empiricism.
I said empiricism. I said practical things. So, but anyway, that's
like a little bit like the smart people are more peaceful too.
Yeah, I think we might.
I think intelligent, non-intelligent is kind of a loaded term anyway.
Yeah, it is. IQ is just bullshit. Don't.
You can probably be the smartest person. Right. Well,
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything.
Why?
I'm saying nothing.
And to take over this one,
Jason.
No,
you got to say it.
No, because obviously, because if I'm aligned with as a degree snob, that I'm probably somewhat aligned that there is some value of standardized instruments that allow us to quantify intelligence, and that we can do that to some respect. That's all.
Would you say that's at least partly a matter of formal training, at least?
What's a matter of formal training?
The standards you're talking about.
Do you mean to administer the test?
Right.
It's a combination of being trained on how to use when I say instrument, I mean survey instrument. It's like how they've been trained on the survey instrument, and it depends on the survey instrument itself and how it has been validated. So,
well, Jason, the issue with that is that people like you are creating the surveys, so it's biased toward your form of thinking. So you're really testing whether or not someone is your version of intelligence, right?
Like, well, wait a second. Do you know what these there's about 6 or 7 of them, these standardized tests that are typically used for intelligence. Do you know what these look like? Have you ever seen any one of these like before?
I probably don't know which ones you're talking about.
All right, no. I'm not saying it as a gotcha whatsoever, because they're really like, unless you've actually taken one or administered one or studied that subject, you wouldn't know. But they're typically the whole goal of them is to try to eliminate all biases with regards to your social dynamics or race or gender or ethnicity, etc. It's attempting to eliminate a lot of those facets because it wants to eliminate like what you actually have been taught. Like it's not what you know. It's like not what you've been taught. It's not about that. It's about the way that you answer questions, how quickly you answer questions. And then it routes you to next questions, how fast you can answer them, how fast you progress along that pathway. It's all been structured to try to get around these issues of like what you already know. Like if I have a really good education, as opposed to somebody else who's like doesn't even have a high school degree. Typically, these are supposed to compensate for those kinds of things.
It's not telling you what to think. It's basically telling you how to think, essentially in a critical thinking sense.
It's trying to use a lot of components that, like it uses like geometric aspects a lot, because people can innately have senses of like understandings of relationships in space. That's right. One aspect that is used. But math is certainly another one because it's very abstract. But I do want to say this to give Rebecca credit. Certainly, they're not 100% perfect. Of course not. There are a facet of error, and there's a confidence interval with regard to the error of these tests, and that issues of how you were brought up, what you know, even though we're trying to take out those things, it's impossible to get those things out completely. So I'm sure that there are some meta-analyses of these tests that say to what, for example, what Rebecca's talking about, some facets of that are actually baked in somewhat. It's really hard to get them out, but that's what the purpose of the test is, to try to do that.
Yeah, they work hard on those tests.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And there is some evidence in neuroscience that there are differences in the amount of extra cortical loops you have in your frontal lobe going down into your basal ganglia, and that could be an indicator of some sort of extra skill as far as intelligence. And there could be genetics involved, and we pretty much know that's why we're smarter than chimps, because we have this extra swelling in the fourth ventricle that indicates some extra loops that allow us to have cognition about cognition about cognition, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, the thing is, back to fitness. Fitness is a number, and it's about mathematical modeling. And all of these things are proven mathematically. Whether or not these models actually represent an organism as it evolved, that is the open question. And we're constantly modifying these models and changing them. And because we get closer and closer to an accurate representation, we're never going to be able to predict what is going to happen with a population 1,000 or 1,000,000 years down the road. We just can't.
Simply put, an idea is just an idea until you test it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway,
I have a question for Rebecca. It's not any in-depth question. I'm just curious about your background. That's all.
Okay, sure.
I was just curious, like what your religious, like what aspect of Christianity, like what facet of, I'm assuming you're Protestant, like what facet of the Protestant religion you are.
Well, I'm kind of a theological mutt, Jason. I don't really fit in too well with anyone, but I will say, perfectly. But I just prefer to think of myself as a Christian. I never chose to be a Protestant. I do fit into that category simply because I am not Catholic.
Yeah.
And I'm not Orthodox. But so, I am Protestant. I just prefer to think of myself as a Christian. I am a young earth creationist, so I do take a literal interpretation of Genesis. I am, I don't believe in hell. So
how are you raised? Like
I was raised in a Baptist church.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay, cool.
And so I'm kind of Baptist in my thinking about salvation. I believe the Bible is clear that salvation is a gift from God for anyone who trusts in Jesus Christ. And I'm also an inclusivist, meaning I don't think that you necessarily have to hear the good news about Jesus in order to be saved by Jesus.
Huh. You could be saved by Jesus. I could be saved by Jesus and never know who Jesus is.
Yes, but for you, Jason, there's no excuse because you have heard of Jesus.
Yeah, no, I understand that. No, I got that. No, I totally get that. I wasn't trying to
get out of it and get in under the wire.
Not at all.
But I do believe that Jesus, one of his main messages was about God's blessing for the poor. And if I take seriously that, blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And I think about that most of the poor who have ever lived throughout human history did not have access to the good news. That gives me one of many strong indications that the power of Jesus Christ and his salvation is not limited just to those who have heard the message.
I mean, I would give you that one of the very nice things of the story of Jesus, the myth, I don't want to say the myth of Jesus, the message that Jesus presents is, and I don't know if this is the correct phrase, but like acquiescing love, like loving regardless, like love in the face of violence, love your neighbors, love your enemies as yourselves, like trying to, and I feel like that is like one of the major tenets of the differences between the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's like Old Testament is fire and brimstone, and New Testament is more like, look, turn the other cheek, be willing to accept your enemies. Is that correct?
Wow. Well, that's interesting because I kind of see it as the opposite. I feel like God's ideal really comes out in the New Testament. He's a lot easier on people in the Old Testament. I mean, with the exception of, the Israelites and entering into the covenant with them, I'd say, the covenant was pretty demanding. But if you think about, the covenant with the Israelites was very few human beings of all the human beings that lived at that time. And, for the rest of humanity, God really didn't give them any rules for a long time. So he was quite, he was quite laid back. I want to answer TP Seeker's question. Why need salvation if there is no hell? Well, TP Seeker, there is death. And I think the Bible is clear that this is, sin and corruption came into the world, caused death in human beings. And so what Jesus came to save us from is sin and death. So Jesus came to bring you eternal life and to restore you to the condition of being a perfect moral being through what he did on the cross. So it's salvation from sin and death.
Why would I want that? Why would I want eternal life?
Well, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, most of us don't like it when our, close friends and family members die, and we often long to see them again. And, I have a promise that I will see them again. Really, I have a promise of complete immortality. Nothing can harm me.
But this topic does bring. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
After a few hundred years of my relatives, I'm pretty sure I'd kill them. I don't know. That's just me. But
well, you've only lived in a corrupted state. So you have no idea what the bliss is like of being free from everything that is corrupted in this world. So I don't think you'd be tired of them.
This sounds like magical thinking to me. But go ahead, Jason. You
definitely.
Jason.
No, I forgot what I was saying. I was thinking. Let me think about it.
Interesting topic. Is it the Old Testament stuff?
No, it was on this exact topic of I had that. What were you guys were talking? Can you go back over what were you the last? What were you talking about exactly?
What did Jesus save us from? Sin and death rather than hell?
Oh, that this issue of being like going to hell is either punishment or going to hell is actually nothing, and actually the end result is reward for heaven. So that's actually those create two different scenarios where if one is like the end result of your actions is a benefit to you, as opposed to the end result of your actions will not be a punishment. Like it's like you can either like the end result of your actions are you get a reward, or the end results are you do not get your ass destroyed for the next eternity. Like those are two different parameters, and they all hinge on what your perspectives of hell being either just death, nothing, or hell being a punishment.
Yeah.
I think wanting to live forever is extremely selfish and going in the wrong direction from what would be spiritual perfection. Spiritually perfect person would easily let go of their life. Rebecca, so if you have a desire to live forever, you are inherently being selfish.
Could you describe heaven to us? Like what would you do there? Are you going to live in a house? Are you going to could you, what is your understanding of it?
Okay. Yeah, I can do that to the best of my ability. But I also want to say, Mike, I don't aspire to live forever. I am immortal. It's not something I aspire to. It's something I have been given. And so, so I don't see how that's selfish, but what is heaven like? Well, there's some things we can know about what it's going to be like because of Jesus's resurrection. Jesus was resurrected in a body that would never die again. So I know that I will have a physical body that, Jesus ate and drank with his friends. So it's a place where we will eat and drink. It's a place where we will know our friends. Jesus's friends recognized him. Some of them didn't recognize him at first, but they did end up recognizing him. And so we know that it will be a place where we will hang out with people. We will eat and drink. It's a physical place.
Do you go to the movies?
Probably. I would say you probably would. I think it will be.
What would the plot of a movie be?
Yeah.
Do you have a physical body?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, she just said that.
She did.
Just said that.
Yep. I'm sorry. Okay. You have a physical body.
Yes, Jesus was his physical body was resurrected. And
yeah, that's what
he is his resurrection was an example of what is to come for us.
Even amongst the Christians, there's some debate amongst whether his resurrection was the result of a resurrection of an actual physical body into heaven. Amongst the Christians, there's even a lot of debate about that.
Really? I've really never heard Christians debate about whether Jesus's physical body was resurrected.
I think so, man. Yeah, definitely. Because when you said he's resurrected in what was it, a body that cannot die again or cannot be that's his spirit body. That's his body that is not his physical body. It's like a different kind of body. It's a body. It's just a different kind of body. That's what I think.
But his physical body was not in the tomb. His physical body was raised. Now, it probably had a different quality to it when it was raised. I'm sure it did.
Did he face through the rocks?
No, come on. Don't ask them.
Did what?
Did he face through the rocks?
No.
Or was it open?
So, Rebecca, in heaven, people are going to have desires, correct? People are going to want things or want to do things, have certain desires, and usually those types of things would inevitably come into conflict with other people. So if you have a desire to do something and I have a desire to do something else, could be a conflict there, right? So how does that gel out in heaven?
That's a great question, David. And so, God's nature is love, right? And so that is how God created us to be in our perfect state. We will be beings of perfect love. And that means that we will never be caring about what we want more than we care about what is good for others.
Yeah,
right. You will be less concerned or not concerned with yourself, which is exactly the opposite of wanting to live, wanting eternal life. So why would I want salvation?
I want a white knight for Rebecca. I want to be Rebecca's white knight when she comes in here, because like I honestly think what Rebecca's position should be. Maybe I'm gonna tell her what Rebecca, I think your position should be.
Okay.
You could tell me you go screw yourself, Jason. But I think what your position should be is that when you are when you die and you go to heaven, if you go to heaven, that it's not your actual physical body, that it's not the physical body that's exactly what it is on earth, that it's not, because that creates a set of problems. I think that if it's your body, but it's a different body that doesn't have like desires for sex and drugs, and it doesn't have these urges to do these types of things. So when David says, what happens when you want to go and commit sins when you're in heaven? The answer is you don't want to commit sins when you're in heaven, because that's you don't want to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but
you're being controlled.
Really, yeah,
I do agree with that, Jason.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. Okay,
a desire is not always a sin, though. You know, if you just want to, hey, I want to go eat a hamburger, and you say you don't want to go eat a hamburger, and I'm going to say, well, you're an ass. Come with me. Come, you know, like there's going to be conflict over something simple. Things like that.
Because God creates.
People have different desires.
No, because
that's not a sin.
Jason, what you're saying is that you are going to be programmed. You aren't going to have any.
Yeah,
free
you're going to be a
will.
zombie.
You're just going to be this. You're always always going to be conforming to what everybody else wants.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I'm saying that once you die and that your spiritual body, let's just call it the spiritual body for whatever you want to, for lack of a better word, we can debate on what that actually is. Spiritual body goes to heaven, that you don't have the desires that you would typically have physically on earth, that that God has made that possible. And when you go to heaven, you're interacting and you have free will to interact. It's just that your nature is such that you're not committing sin, because that's the nature of that physical, of that body. So it's that's just the way it is.
I would be exactly the same as if you stuck a tube down my throat and my brain was dead. I wouldn't have any conflict at all, and everything would be pretty much operated on by natural. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that.
I think, can I amend? Well, just add a little amendment here. I think the problem that we have with our desires on earth is not the desire itself. It's that when our desires get out of control, like when it's an unhealthy desire. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having a desire to eat a hamburger.
Yeah,
it's when you desire to eat 20 hamburgers in a row. You know what I'm saying?
Or when you desire to have eternal life, that's when it gets out of control. Like the desire for eternal life.
Well, Mike, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on that, because, like I said, it's not. I don't have a desire for eternal life. I just have eternal life.
Yeah,
I have a desire.
What's your desire?
Snake.
What is it?
What is it?
Snake's not going to say.
Do you want to bite us?
I think we lost him. Something.
You lost your Snake.
Connection might be bad.
Huh?
We lost you.
Well, while we're waiting for him, I will just say, when you're talking about going to the movies and are we going to do that in heaven? I believe that the same types of things that we do here, a lot of the same types of things, like creative things that we do, different type of projects that we do. I believe that we will do that, and that we will even be serving each other in various ways, in God's kingdom, just as we do here. We just will not be hindered by some of the things that hinder us here. Often here, we're limited by how much money we have, or how much education we're able to obtain. And, God's kingdom is going to be the kind of place where you are finally free to, pursue your interests as a being, to be creative like God is, and to use that creativity that in a way that pleases other beings. And I mean, really, isn't that like
what we do when we make art and various things that humans do, we like to delight other people, to help other people, and to do useful things for people. And I believe that's all part of God's kingdom. We're not going to be just loafs like sitting around and
Yeah, okay. Suppose we went camping. Will there be mosquitoes?
Come on.
Mosquitoes?
I think if there are mosquitoes, they won't be biting you. There might be mosquitoes, and maybe mosquito, maybe you'll be so delighted by the mosquitoes because they won't be biting you.
One of the best pleasures on earth is sex. Is there any sex?
Look, yeah, I got to interrupt here, man. Like this just doesn't work. This whole talking
Jason,
about
you don't know where
it doesn't work. Doesn't work. No, I'm saying
we don't know where it go.
I can explain it. I think I can explain it. Like, it doesn't work because the inherent way that we think about the physical body and the how the physical body works, how like even the parameters of like pain and pleasure, why they exist, our biological systems, etc.
Yeah.
Like all of that, it doesn't make sense when you're like, I'm going to now go to heaven in this like other place where I'm like, what? Like, I'm not going to be tempted by these things. Like, am I going to think, look, I want to rape that woman. And am I going to walk down the street and go, wow, I'd love to rape that woman. I'm in heaven. And I'm going to be like, wait a
Jason,
second.
I hope you're not walking around thinking that now.
I'm saying no, of course. But I'm saying, like, if you were in heaven and you did everything great and like you were perfect, whatever, and you go to heaven and one time you're walking down there, you have free will. All of a sudden you see this other person walking down heaven and you're like, wow, I want to rape that woman. I want to like forcibly have sex with her without her permission. That like, does that mean suddenly God comes down and goes, wait a second, dude, you can't be thinking that? Or am I like,
the concept
do
of
I not think that? Do I not?
Hey, Jason, I apologize. I think you do get it. You do get the camping idea, right?
All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
that's what I was talking about with desires. You're gonna have every desire there is.
Well,
but that's a physical brain.
Let me just. I'll explain the way I think it will be. Okay, with regard to sexuality and attraction, really when you're desiring, you see a woman, she's desirable, you want to have sex with her. Really what that is lust, right? You want something of that person for your own pleasure.
No.
And what I would say, no, I'm not. Wait, Mike, I'm not talking about a loving sexual expression. I'm talking about the desire that you feel when you see a woman and you want to have sex with her. In that moment, you are not wanting to give something to her. You're wanting to get something from her, right? So
no, I totally disagree that that's
talking to a 70-year-old man, Rebecca. Be careful.
Okay, all right. Well, you can explain how. Let me just finish my point, and then you can explain how I'm wrong about this. But the way that I think you will experience people and beautiful women in heaven is that you will see them for their beauty, but you will not desire to, do anything with that. And that's just because, we are not going to have sexuality in heaven. Jesus was clear about that.
So no sex in heaven. Boy,
is it just what about? Is it just because God says he just makes it that way? He just makes it that way.
I don't think our relationships with people are going to be the same as they are here. I mean there's a different dynamic.
This okay. This gets to the heart of this issue of like what I was trying to play the role like your role of like accepting facets of like of going to heaven, and like but the issue of like the physical body was what was holding me up. Like the problems, and that this is the problem of like the physical body inherently itself is something that like wants to like do lustful things. Like,
right, but that's in your state.
Yeah, is there?
That's the.
Would there be any physical pleasure?
I think there will be plenty of physical pleasure.
And no pain.
So why wouldn't you want to pleasure certain parts of your body?
like masturbation,
like sexually.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think I'm just
we
gonna
don't
have
need to
to
be talking
say
about this
here,
stuff like the
this part. I'm gonna just have to say I don't know.
Yeah, I think,
but
yeah.
I think you're not gonna be missing anything, okay? Because part of the reason you have sexual desire is so that more humans will come into the world, right? So, I mean, this is an important part of getting more humans to exist.
But
And
what if my eternal desire is to masturbate continually? I don't know.
Well, I don't think you're going to have that desire, Mike. I think
most people see a therapist for that.
I mean, yeah, but okay. Do we get to masturbate at all in heaven?
You don't have that desire now.
Why would we have those
why would you
parts
have it
in the first place?
The one good thing about this discussion, Rebecca, is that when people start to bring up these topics about like, are you a person in heaven? Are you walking around on the street in heaven? Are you doing this in heaven? Blah, blah, blah.
How do you even have clothes?
Anytime they say that to you, you should just be like, I don't know. And it has doesn't mean anything to what I'm talking about. I'm not going to presume to know anything about what's going on in that respect, but it has no effect of what we're doing. We know it exists, but we don't know exactly what's going on there or whether there's a physical body or not, but it doesn't matter for us to talk about that.
We can talk about it in an imagination form, of course.
Because that doesn't matter. Because frankly, like to get into these discussions of like, I have a body there and I do have pleasure, but I don't sin. And there's a reason I don't sin. It just gets into this rabbit hole. You're like, it's God's thing. God does it. Leave it to
take
God.
full responsibility of this shit show. So I will take full responsibility as I asked the question.
I do admit there are aspects that I don't understand of what life is going to be like in God's kingdom. But I do believe that the Bible is clear. We will have a body.
Do you know what's really cool? That if you leave all of what Jason said, if you take Jason's suggestion, you leave all of this stuff out, right? You leave all those things out, all of that pain, pleasure, whatever. What you end up with is exactly what's going to happen to all of us when we die and we are completely extinguished, that our consciousness is not there. We are going to be in heaven. We have absolutely nothing that is going to in any way stress us out ever again. There's going to be no pleasure, game, desire. I can't have my desires fulfilled, problems. You are going to be just as restful as you have, as restful as you were before you were born. And that's the beauty of dying. And that's why I want to do it someday.
And why would God punish us for a finite crime? We only live a little bit, and then we.
But anyway, that's really good advice. Good advice, Rebecca, not to go down that rabbit hole, because, like, even with the camping example, the reason we go camping is to stress ourselves out a little bit. I figured that out a long time ago when I went camping with my kids, and at the end of the weekend, I was like, God, we had fun. Why did we have fun? I mean, the tent fell down 4 times. I had to feed the kids. I had to chop wood. I had to serve my children the entire, 3 days. And but that was fun. It was the stress of the situation, or putting myself in a position where I did not have all the comforts of home.
However, your young earth position, your young earth creationism position, I just think you should drop it. I just think it's not even worth arguing that position. You're not going to convert more Christians by taking that position, and by taking that position and being like, I'm going to put my flag in the sand. I'm going to draw my line. Like, I'm not backing off this thing, like 7 days. That's what the Bible says. That's what I'm stick with. And I'm never changing my mind. I think that's just being stubborn.
Midnight is here. Midnight, do you recall we had the same conversation with Antangelo on your channel, I believe. Do you recall that conversation? Pretty sure it was on your channel. I asked Antangelo the same question, and it kind of turned into a little bit of a shit show, just like this one.
Yeah,
because it's just so complicated.
Because David, thank you. Blame David. Hashtag blame David.
It's just so scientifically impossible.
Yeah.
That I just don't see how, I think it's just better off chalking up to say, like, the doctrine fathers, throughout the history that they just didn't know. They crafted the story this way. It's just a story. So it doesn't detract. It doesn't take anything else away from the magnificence of God, or God being revelatory or eternal or whatever. So
cool. That's Jason, why don't you become a Christian with such an enlightened view?
I don't really like the way you said cool. It was like dismissive. It was very dismissive, Rebecca.
I can argue these positions much better than I would say like 80% of the Christians.
Well, let me just I'm not being dismissive.
No,
Look,
I know.
But actually, in a way,
it came off as dismissive.
No, well, okay. Let me finish the full thought here, because I agree with Jason about a lot of what he's saying. Number one, my position about this. It's instantly like I lose respect. I lose credibility with people as soon as people find out I'm a young Earth creationist. So I would say it has hindered me more than helped me, and it would definitely be better for me if I kept quiet about it. Right. Yes. And actually, when I first started YouTube, I did keep quiet about it. I only focused on Jesus and the Bible, and I did not at all bring in young Earth creationism. And actually, still now, I really don't focus on it. I mean, people pick on me about it, but I mean, I'm not going to change the view that I think is correct just because it would give me more credibility. I actually do believe I hold the correct position. And I mean, I agree with Jason that it would be better for me if I didn't talk about it. Yeah. So, like I said, I try not to make a big deal of it, but it does come up sometimes because of things like animal suffering. And then people say millions of years of animal suffering. And I'm like, well, if you don't take the biblical understanding of how the animals were created, then you have a huge mess with animal suffering. But I don't have that problem because I'm actually just believing the Bible story.
Wait, you don't have a problem with animals suffering? Why?
The millions of years. Because
for millions of years, and like the system of predation, that our ecosystem is like, is basically built in with animal suffering. And I don't believe it was that way in the beginning. The Bible says that God gave all the animals the green plants for food.
Okay, so to follow up on this, so like I'm not trying to make a rude comment. I'm assuming.
No, you're fine. I'm not easily offended. Go ahead.
I'm assuming that you use all the necessities of life. You have a car, you have a computer, you have you have running water, you use the regular streets, you go to a pharmacy, you do all these kinds of things that everybody else does. You go out to eat occasionally, you have a credit card, you do this, you do that, you have a bank account, you do all the things that like a typical American would do. Okay. So all of those things, if I traced all of those things back, they would end up connecting to extremely complicated technology. Like
I'm lacking, Jason. I'm lacking some of those things. Could you help me out? I'm sorry.
All right, that's fine. I'm just saying all of those things have very sophisticated technology, and for each, but you use each one of them. You use your cell phone, you use this, you use a car, but you don't fully understand all of that technology. So I guess my issue is in connecting that to the God topic. We're like, well, about having belief in something, even though I don't fully know how it works. Do you do that all over the place? This is
absolutely.
So this is what we're doing. We're like, look, I don't have full knowledge of like where does reason come from? People are like, well, where does intelligibility come from? Like, well, I can't tell you exactly where that comes from. I can make some assumptions that allow me to operate in the functional world. I guess I'm just trying to make this connection to an all-powerful God and what folks like atheists think. I don't know. Maybe you don't have a perspective on this topic of like God exists because he must exist because of these topics. Maybe that's not, you don't think about those things.
Well,
so
I mean,
Andrew has a question for you, Rebecca, by the way, if you.
Yeah, I see it. I will answer
Matter of-
that. We'll answer Jason and then
Yeah,
I'll answer
yeah.
that.
Okay.
I mean, to be honest, I don't get deep into the philosophical arguments for God.
Okay.
Because I'm just not interested in it. I think there are good philosophical arguments for God. To me, God's existence is obvious, and I don't understand, like why people don't see that. But, if you choose to, say, well, I just don't know, or, for whatever reason, you don't see his existence as obvious, I understand, there's people with different perspectives than me. So yeah, I don't know how that connects to all the technology and everything you were talking about.
Well, I mean, I guess it seems like your worldview starts with God. And then from there, as long as everything comports with the God worldview, you're okay with it. Like, as an example, the world is 6,000 years old. Your worldview is a God worldview. And in the God worldview, the world is 6,000 years old. So any other information that comes to you that violates that view, you're like, I don't believe that. That's wrong. Because the Bible says the world is 6,000, the universe is 6,000 years old. Science tells me something else. I don't accept that because my worldview tells me that's correct, right? That's kind of the way you look at it.
Well, actually, I mean,
or not, maybe not.
If you listen to, if I told you the story of my faith journey, evolution was a big problem for me for many years. And so I didn't just say, oh, evolution doesn't agree with the Bible and therefore I'm discarding it.
Yeah.
It actually caused me a huge problem in my faith as I was being taught these ideas about evolution in school and trying to reconcile that with the biblical story. And I didn't come to a conclusion for quite a few years. So, I wrestled with that for at least 7 years, if not more. And so I didn't just easily discard, what was being taught to me. But I will say this, again, I separate evolution from young earth creation. I think I have, strong scientific reasons for not believing in evolution. But when it comes to young earth creation, I fully admit to you that I see evidence on both sides.
Okay,
I think there's strong evidence against a young earth. I also think there's strong evidence for a young earth. So I have different lines of evidence that I'm grappling with. And I lean toward believing the Bible story. So the Bible does weigh in more heavily in which side I'm choosing to believe. But let me answer Andrew Cummings' question. Does it bother me that most creationists are not young earth creationists? No, not at all. Actually, I am so grateful from the bottom of my heart for anyone who is a believer in God and creation. And even I even thank God for theistic evolutionists, but I mean, especially for those who have seen the absurdity of evolution and who are speaking against it. I am grateful from the bottom of my heart. I don't care if they believe in young earth, old earth, whatever earth. I love them all. I love all the intelligent design guys. To me, all of these people, whether young earth or old earth, they are some of the most important people in the world, and I'm thankful for them.
Well, I'm glad you at least stipulated that young earth. Like, I can understand if you were like, I can understand being more reticent with evolution than you are a young earth, because young earth is out there. I'll be honest with you. That's like, there's just no, it's so difficult to support scientifically a young earth. Now,
I agree. It's difficult.
Yeah. So, I understand. I got it.
Oh boy, we killed the room.
Silence.
You want me to bring up another crazy question, and we can turn it into another shit show.
I could start. I could start.
Go ahead.
I could just make up some topic. Like
let's talk about let's talk about midnight. He's here.
Do you take when you take communion? When you drink the blood, drink the wine, and eat the wafer? Are you drinking the blood and eating the body? Is it actually the blood in the body or not?
Well, it sure doesn't taste like blood, and it sure doesn't taste like somebody's body.
I don't know. Well,
but I do think that maybe Protestants have gone a little bit too far with just calling it symbolism. So I'm kind of like halfway in between. Like, I mean, I would say I take a stronger view of it than, just, this is not the body and blood of Jesus. This is only a symbol. I don't go that far. I just, I'm doing a spiritual act. Yeah. And it's a spiritual act of receiving the body and blood of Jesus. I don't think it's literal physical body and blood of Jesus, but I do think there's more to it than just a symbol.
Huh, okay, cool.
So our buddy Snelling, Andrew Snelling, apparently wrote a paper or a bunch of papers on the Tapete Formation in the Grand Canyon. And he seems to think that he can show that it was it's basically sandstone that was deformed or curved. There was a massive curvature. And he believes that he can show scientifically that it was soft mud and that it happened rapidly within a few weeks, that sort of thing. And I think he links a paper. There's a paper here. Let's see, what is it? The Tapete. Let's see. He claims it's peer reviewed, but it's published in Answers in Genesis, I believe. This is abstract. So anyway,
what's the name of the paper?
Does he explain the canyon itself?
Does he what?
Does he explain the canyon itself or just the strata?
He's talking about this one particular formation, the Tapete sandstone. But yeah, he has a whole theory on the canyon itself and all of that. But he's claiming that, after analyzing this, they did thin sections and they checked out all the crystals. And he claims that it wasn't deformation under high temperature and pressure. Rather, it was wet mud laid down by Noah's flood, and then it was bent somehow, and then it hardened apparently. And so anyway, he's got a whole bunch of attachments, and it would take a geologist some time to go through this.
What's this Answers Research Journal? What is that?
That's part of. I think it's part of AIG or one of those. It's not a peer reviewed publication at all.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But anyway, he has he's got a lot of challenging information, and I think we probably have to address it at some point. So
yeah. Rebecca, yeah, Andrew has been dying to talk to you. I don't know if you know Andrew. He's a nice young man. He was in here earlier. Yeah, he's
Andrew Cumming. I thought you were talking about Andrew Snelling.
No, Andrew.
Yes, I want to talk.
No, I just wanted to bring that up. And he is a little bit shy. He doesn't like to push into the conversation. So, and he's dying to talk with you. And I mean, I don't know if maybe you guys can set up a time, or he can jump back in here and
I wrote to him that he should email me. And I'd be happy to talk to him. We can do something on here if you guys want.
Come in and bring it up right now, Andrew, and you can talk at least a little bit about
Jason, I'm going to put those links in the description for you.
All right, cool. Yeah. I'll just look at that paper, the Tapete sandstone paper, if you can call it a paper.
Well, he did a lot of work. I mean, they did thin sections. They did a lot of microscopy. So there's something there that needs to be addressed, is what I'm saying. So,
well, but you know what? Here's the thing. Okay, I'll bet that section of the Grand Canyon. I mean, I don't know where they studied, where they went, but the Grand Canyon is heavily studied. I can't imagine he's the only person to have studied that section of the Grand Canyon. I'll bet there are other papers on the Tapete sandstone.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So like if I just went back and researched Happiet's sandstone, I'll bet I'll find like 10 papers of people that spent like years and years studying.
Okay.
That
what he claims at the top of this article is that he couldn't find anybody that's actually done what he did, that went out and did thin sections of the P10 sandstone. That's his claim in the article, and I've linked both of them in the description. They're at the bottom. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, Jason. Hi, Shadow. Hey,
What's up, Mark?
Hi.
Hey, Snake.
I have a question for Rebecca.
Sure, Top Dog.
Go ahead.
Like, where is this heaven that is supposed to be? I mean, is it in another dimension or is it out in space?
Top Dog.
That's a great question, Top Dog.
No,
I
it's
don't
not.
know.
It's not a great
I don't know. It's a perfectly valid answer.
Why would we even think that there is one?
Speed, could you link that study? I would really love to, or is it just on Answers and Genesis? Just
it's on Answers. I think Answers Research, but I put both of them in the description of this video.
Gotcha.
Can you find them that way? Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
They're right at the end. I just now saved them. He's got an article where he talks about this federal lawsuit that he did because they wouldn't allow him to get samples. And apparently he sued them and forced them to let him go up and collect samples. And then he went in and he did all of this research, and he claims that it's all in that paper. So anyway, I've been looking into sedimentation. I call it's my cooking book. When I'm upstairs waiting for something in the oven, I'm reading about sedimentation, and there's a lot there, and it's quite a science. And so it's going to be very dense to get through some of this stuff and figure out. I think he's claiming that the crystals aren't deformed, that the sand isn't deformed. And I don't know if it always is deformed in a sandstone deformation.
Right. So it's sort of assuming the consequent kind of thing.
Yeah. I know that in things like gneiss, GNEISS, that there is some crystal deformation that you actually see. Like if it's under extreme pressure and temperature and it's very, very close to melting, but not quite igneous, so it's right on that borderline, you'll end up with deformation of quartz crystals because of the extreme pressure and temperature. But at lower temperature and pressure, I don't think it does that. I think the crystals pretty much keep their shape. But yeah, go ahead.
The paper is 100 pages long.
Oh my God. Yeah, there you go.
That's a
project for you.
Telltale sign, papers that are so long like that. They're just throwing. They're just throwing everything in there, man. It's just like.
I wouldn't assume that, but I think none of us really have the geological knowledge to sort of. That is a long paper, I do concede, but.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. Unless there's a specific reason, you have that you need to have a paper like that, you have a huge amount of materials, there's some specific reason, okay, but and it's not peer reviewed, so it's a non-peer review paper that's 100 pages long.
That's my concern.
Yeah, he's got 100-page encyclopedia sitting out on the internet. He's got who's going to go to page 20, 72. Subsection C and review that and be like, is this all true? They're not going to do it.
Well, my concern is the because I can't evaluate this because I know very little about geology. I'd be the first to admit that. I have to rely on the peer review process by the professors and doctors of geology out there and the experts in the field. The fact that it hasn't been peer reviewed is really what kills it for me, not necessarily the length, but yeah, that is a concern. To me, this is just.
Well, these are the things that I like to tackle, or I would like to find somebody to tackle it, to basically find out what he's doing here exactly, because he's going to be making claims all over the place about this paper. So, I can understand discounting it because it isn't peer reviewed. But on the other hand, this is what we're going to hear about for the next 20 years. You know,
and just skimming through it, I think there's I'm saying in some parts he's referencing himself from previous non-peer reviewed works.
Right.
So he's basically Wise and Snelling his own paper from 2005, which isn't peer reviewed either.
Well, let's go look at the oh my God, this thing is what is going on here? Okay, so we're looking at the references. Yeah, we got a lot of references. We got pages and pages of them. So yeah, this would be a real chore for somebody, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, some of these references, you know, in Proceedings of the 8th International Conference on Creationism.
Oh my God.
That is not a scientific reference. That's a religious reference. That's a red flag right there.
Okay, so here's all of the places where he refers to himself. Let's see, starting here, 1, 2. So he's got a whole bunch of previous papers, you know, which is something they do, but you know, got to go dig them all out. But I'm guessing that
this bibliography is massive, like just insanely massive.
It is. Yeah, this would be a chore for some. Oh, R.J. Downard. He could write a whole book on this probably. So, anyway.
Yeah, and see, this reference from 2005 is from some place called Origins, which I believe is a young Earth creationist website, I think. Look, I have to agree with Jason. There's a few red flags that are coming up in this.
Yep. But we're going to this is what we have to deal with. You know, this is the kind of stuff we deal with. This one is very...
As I said, I don't know anything about geology. I'll happily admit that. I know very little. And
well, that's... After I master all of molecular biology and PopGen and bioinformatics, that's my next project when I grow up. I'm going to do geology next. Probably when
I think that's where we have... Yeah, well, that's where we have to kind of rely on the scientific methodology and the peer review process to actually address things like this. I don't know. Look at this.
If you look, so I just took the time to read the abstract, so I can't read the entire paper, but I can read the abstract. The abstract is horribly written. The abstract essentially is like, hey guys, we're investigating this nature of folding in the Cambrian, and this is what we found. We found some stuff, and guess what? This stuff, it looks like a flood. End.
Yeah.
And that's the abstract. It's like they didn't really talk about what they should have done was said, we evaluated the Grand Canyon's Tatis group to evaluate whether it supports the existence of a great flood. Did it or not? Here are our results and our statistical results of evaluating that. They couldn't do that. They just talk a lot about what they're seeing. This is what they see. The geologists love to do this. I mean, I'm a geologist. I have a master's in geology. You go out in the field. Love to go out in the field and describe what you see. That's a lot of geology. It's like going out and what am I looking at? You know?
There are no signs, either macroscopic or microscopic, that the sandstone or its constituent grains have been even slightly metamorphosed. Instead, the mineralogical context, texture, features, etc. What else? Deposition are consistent with catastrophic erosion of the great uniformity near what the hell is he saying? Okay, so he's saying that basically the microscopic structure doesn't indicate sandstone with deformation. So I'm going to look into that. Sandstone with deformation. I've got a couple of books on petrology and sedimentary geology or sedimentation.
I mean, you could go through each one of these sections if you wanted to and evaluate it. I mean, just in the abstract, he, like, from the bottom up, where he's like, there are no signs. This is like line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like line 10 or 11. There are no signs, either macroscopic or microscopic, that the sandstone or its constituent grains have even like you were just reading, has even been slightly metamorphosed. Instead, the mineralogical content, blah, 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 all indicate rapid burial. So the question is that true?
Yeah.
And then secondly, then it goes, furthermore, all are consistent with the catastrophic erosion of the great uniformity near the initiation of the global Genesis flood cataclysm only about 50 years ago. So what's evidence supports that? You've got to have the citations for that. I mean, like, he's just like, what the hell? They're just making some shit up here.
Yeah, I'd like to see a flood that accounts for deformation. Like, I'd like to see a massive flood, like some tsunami, where we have deformed layers of sandstone forming rapidly. I mean, do we have any evidence of that anywhere? I doubt it. I mean, you can imagine what it would take in order for that a sheet of rock of that size to deform under a flood. What kind of a flood are we talking about? Well,
we have liquefaction things that happen in the sand.
And the other thing about sandstone is that the field of sedimentation in sandstone is so the kinds of rocks are so varied, so incredibly varied, that it is a real project to start to understand what we have in terms of one particular rock. So I'd love to see what he's done. So.
I mean, I seem to remember, and like, I should pull out. I have a great book on this somewhere on it's called Sedimentary Structures. God, I took a bunch of classes on this. You think I'd remember more of it, about the turbidity of currents. And
right, turbidity is a big thing.
The types of sedimentary structures that are formed with certain types of turbid environments at certain types of levels in oceanic environments, like whether you're on the bottom, whether you're like at certain levels, based on the temperature, the all kinds, like the chemical compositions of the water, like all of these result in different types of turbid flow, and that results in different types of sedimentary structures that we see in the sand or in sedimentary depositions. So when we go in there, we say, I see hummocky cross stratification. Somebody goes in there, they go, I see hummocky cross stratification. A geologist is like, aha, only certain kind of environments have hummocky cross stratification, because of, I know that's sedimentary structure is formed in certain types of turbid environments and certain types of elevations of water, depths of water. So that's what geologists do. We look at this, they're like, oh, this had to have happened very rapidly. Somebody's like, look, I see these kinds of structures. That's not rapid deposition. That's slow deposition.
Yeah, and the other thing that is the cementation between the grains is very indicative of what kind of morphogenesis you've had and how much time it took, or how long ago it was deposited, because there's a whole lot of chemical alteration that goes on in sediments. But that book, is it by John R. Ellen, Jason? Is it a 2-volume set? Developments in sedimentary structures? That one?
No, I don't think so. Let me see if I've got it on my shelf. Do I have it? I swear I thought I had it.
Oh my God, there's a lot of them with that name, unfortunately. So there's also Collinson. Okay. Anyway, we're probably boring the hell out of everybody, but.
Well, this kind of looks like just a religious piece masquerading as a scientific paper.
That's what we always say. In some manner, we're going to have to account for it, I think, right, Rebecca? Mm-hmm. Are we not going to have to account for it?
What do you mean you have to account for it?
Well, if somebody comes up with a paper like this, we have to address it, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be serious about really showing people why young Earth creationism is wrong. Definitely, I think somebody's got to read it.
Yeah, do you know Rebecca? She's from the dark side, Mark.
Oh no, but it's nice to meet you.
Hi, Mark. Anyway. Nice to meet you. Actually, we've been on a stream together before. It might have been on this channel.
I don't think so. I don't think I've been on here before.
No, not here, but I think you met her somewhere else.
Maybe. Amy's. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's called Speed. It's called Sedimentary Structures by Collinson and Thompson.
Yep. Okay. What edition? Third or fourth?
Third edition.
Okay. Well, there's a fourth edition apparently.
So I really want to see what he says about radiometric dating.
Oh, does he address that too?
Well, he's got to, right? I mean, it's radiometric dating.
Well, they have ways of dismissing it. So, nice book. I'll see if I can obtain that.
Yep, I remember one. Sorry.
Speed, I think you're echoing again.
I am?
Yep.
Everybody else agree?
Yeah, put it on full screen. Put us past it.
Well, I don't think that's going to make a difference, but...
Yep, put your avatar on.
Oh, how about now?
Okay, hold on. Yep, it's echoing through you.
Really? Everybody else agree?
Yeah, and I'm going.
Oh, God, I'll go away and come back. Goodbye. I'll be back.
That's one way to get rid of Speed. It happens to him all the time for some reason. StreamYard does it, or I don't know what it does.
As a scientist, one of the things that really, I was raised Lutheran. Baptized Lutheran, went through catechism as a Lutheran, became a member of my church as a Lutheran, went to graduate school, went to another Lutheran church after graduate school, became a member of that church, but got my daughter baptized in that church. I feel like I have an established relationship with the church. I enjoy the feeling that I had of bonding and connection that I had with people when I was praying and when I was in church. I really much enjoy that. But the problem is that the scientific disconnect. I can't get past the truth of things. That something that is true or not true, or that there being an omnipotent God. I can't get past those things.
Jason, do you know Digital Gnosis? Do you know him? Nathan?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, he's basically the same thing. Like he... I don't know if you followed him in the past, probably a year and a half or something.
I love his stuff.
He was an atheist, and now he's gone back to being a believer, I guess. I don't know. What does he call himself now? But same thing. He just liked going to the church. He liked the bonding and that kind of stuff. So he went back to it. Yeah.
I enjoyed the feeling I had that it gave me, but I felt like it was it wasn't true, that it was fake. And that was the thing that I couldn't get around. I'm like, it's fake. It's not real. Ignorance is bliss. People are like, hey man, put me back in the Matrix. What's that one character's name? What's the character's name? Cypher. Mark Reed. I love Mark Reed. Cypher. Yeah, Cypher. Cypher's like, you know what? When my brain's telling me when I take a bite of that burger that it's just particles being sent into my mind. But you know what? It tastes so good. So he's just put me back in, man. I don't care.
It's kind of weird how he could do that without that guy that's watching over them while he's plugged in. How they didn't notice.
Yeah, but
the plot problem.
But the point is that some of us, even me, I'm like, hey man, sometimes you're like, think about that. You're like, put me back in. What if I could just not know?
A comforting lie is very, very seductive over hard truth.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's just the reality. it'd be nice to think that I'm, going to win $1 million tomorrow, and it's going to happen. It'd make me feel really good about that lottery ticket that you purchased. But what's the truth? The truth is I'm probably not going to. In fact, I'm almost certainly not going to. And I've probably wasted my money on a freaking lottery ticket. Truth hurts, man.
I heard that the lottery is poor tax.
Yeah.
Poor people tax.
You get me every time.
I think it depends on how it's run. Where I am, it basically is a charity. It all goes towards charities, and it's run by the government that just puts the money into charities. So, yeah, maybe, but
the way it works.
I meant as a joke, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm still head deep in this paper. I just objections have been raised to Snelling's radiometric thing, basically saying for the decay to have happened within the time frame he's saying there would have to be excess heat, and he cites his own paper saying that it's not a problem kind of thing. It's like,
you could cite your own paper.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fine if it's a peer-reviewed paper, but if you're just citing a paper that hasn't been peer-reviewed in the past, you could have said anything in there. There's nothing.
You could say anything in here. You could say anything in here.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, this is a non-peer-reviewed paper citing another non-peer-reviewed paper. So it's kind of like, if we're concerning ourselves with how many non-peer-reviewed paper the non-peer-reviewed paper citing, I don't think it's irrelevant because they're all non-peer-reviewed. But people typically cite themselves all the time. Yeah,
that's true.
Young students are taught to make sure to cite your work. If you can cite your work at all, cite it because it's gonna get counted. Cite your work in cite your other work in your future work. It's a no-brainer. I mean, you got to do that if it's legit, obviously.
Well, the other thing is the Answers Research Journal. It is peer-reviewed among the creation researchers. So it may not be, peer-reviewed by the evolution believers. But I mean, it does go through some sort of review.
Well, really, we're talking about mainstream academia, the people that have accumulated knowledge in universities and things like that. So when you look at just the answers people, there's such a minority of the actual experts out there. They're vast minority. And there's other sort of Christians that vehemently disagree with them. I think a good site is BioLogos. I think it is BioLogos. They're Christians, very, very devout Christians, but they do believe in scientific evidence. And that kind of leads me to a question I had for you, Rebecca, if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
It's just, if there was sort of demonstrable evidence that conflicts with the Bible, which one would you bias towards, and why? I guess I'm interested in knowing.
Well, and Mark, first, I just want to address, you said these, the people with BioLogos, they're Christians, but they accept scientific evidence, right? And I think that, I also accept scientific evidence, but
no, fair enough.
There's scientific evidence, in that points to different things. Like evidence does not, necessarily produce a conclusion. We can have, some evidence that, provides a good reason for believing in one conclusion, and then other evidence that provides a reason for believing in another conclusion.
Okay, so I suppose I should, I suppose I'll clear it up. Sorry, obviously I misspoke. Then they believe in mainstream scientific conclusions. Would that be better?
Yes.
Phrased? Okay.
Yeah. And so, I'd just point out also that, if nobody challenged mainstream scientific conclusions, then we wouldn't really have a robust way to progress and overturn
ideas that turn out to be false, which there have been many times in history where mainstream science believed something that was false for quite a long time. And, thankfully there were people who, looked at other evidence and, fought for a different conclusion. So that's kind of how I think of the young Earth research. And you're right, it's not in mainstream science. They're not being peer reviewed by mainstream science because they're not being taken seriously. And now I can't even remember what your other question was.
Well, I want to address that, because the revolutions in science that you're talking about, when they've had something wrong, the change has actually come from the peer review process. It's from somebody publishing something, providing their conclusions and the evidence to back it up with science, being reviewed, and there's no scientists start to agree with them. So what we're talking about here is very, very different. We're talking about people producing papers, the experts looking at it, and people in the field looking at it, rejecting them for not having strong evidence, and then them saying, well, we're right anyway. So it is a different situation with the young Earth creationists.
Well, I do know that's how you feel about it, Mark. But I mean, I
well, no, that's not how I feel. That's how it is. So, do you think that summation is in any way factually incorrect? That they produce papers, they are rejected for peer review? I don't.
Well, I mean, I'm not an expert on the history of papers that have been submitted for peer review, or even of how scientific discoveries have been, made. So I really, I'm reluctant to delve into an area that I don't have very much information to work with. But to answer your earlier question, which would I lean toward if I had scientific evidence for one thing? I think I just told Jason earlier, maybe before you came on, young Earth creationism is one of those things where I choose the biblical story, and it's more of a, I wouldn't say that my belief in young Earth creationism is completely based on science. I think there's evidence on both sides. I think there's evidence for an old Earth. I think there's some evidence for a young Earth. And I, because I believe the Bible story, I lean more heavily to believing the young Earth. But I recognize that it's a belief, not like a conclusion that I've come to through empirical science.
So I guess the more pertinent thing then is why.
Why what?
Why you would lean, like if you've got demonstrable evidence, what would compel you to lean towards a biblical account rather than the demonstrable evidence?
Right.
I'm not sure why.
Okay. Remember, I said I think there's evidence on both sides. Like there's scientific evidence for a young Earth. There's also scientific evidence that seems to point toward an old Earth. So in light of like conflicting data, I lean toward the Bible, the way I interpret the Bible, and which I think is more favorable toward a young Earth.
It's not conflicting data.
If there was no conflicting data, okay, then I would have a real issue. I think
she meant conflicting conclusions. I think Jason sort of,
No, what I mean is what I mean is if all the scientific evidence was for the old age of the Earth, and then I would have to reevaluate my current beliefs. Because then I would have the Bible, which I believe is true, and also good science that I also put weight toward. So if I really thought all of the scientific evidence for old Earth was true, I would have to reevaluate, and I might come to the conclusion, I might find a way to fit the old Earth into the Bible. And I already do think there's a way, that the globe could be 4 billion years old, and still the 6 days of creation can be true.
Sure. So, a lot of Christians believe that, sure. Yeah.
Right. I just think, it's not quite as consistent, but I mean, like I said, that I feel like I would have to reevaluate if really and truly all the scientific evidence was weighted against young Earth.
Well, I mean, from my point of view, that the weight against young Earth is overwhelming. Nearly every single discipline of science says that that's incorrect, but you may have a different perspective on that weighting. But I guess, to my mind, I just find it strange. And don't get me wrong, I'm not making any kind of sort of derogatory term about you. I just find it strange to believe a one text over all of the scientific conclusions that mainstream science has made over the years. It seems strange to me. I don't see a reason why you would do that, or how it would get you to sort of factual information.
Right. And I think the reason you're having trouble with it is because you do believe all the scientific evidence is against the young Earth. And so, like, of course, you're going to think that's strange because you're not actually seeing the evidence for the young Earth. And for whatever reason, and I understand it's harder to listen to the minority voice. So I would expect that you would more easily dismiss evidence that's given by the minority voice, especially when it conflicts with your worldview.
Well, it's not just sort of by the minority voice. It's just the claims that are made just don't seem to comport with the reality that we see around us. I presume it's sort of 6,000 years you believe the Earth is.
I mean,
somewhere in the thousands, not in the millions.
This topic.
Billion.
This topic has went round and round and round for the last, I don't know how many years, but particularly for like the last 200 years. This topic, I mean, like in the 1850s, this topic came up big time. And then there was like Lyell's uniformitarianism and the discussions of old Earth, like how old Earth we couldn't be anything but an old Earth. Back in the 1850s, 1860s, we were talking about this. But here we are, 2020, and we're talking about the age of the Earth being 6,000 years old. It seems like the evidence is so overwhelming. I mean, we can't say with 100% certainty, but I'm even kind of reticent to say there's even the possibility that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
I think perhaps the only way you could make a case to me is that if sort of God, it was thousands of years old, but God made it to look like it's billions of years old. Because, well, yeah, and that's sort of,
it's just like God did it, like it's like anything could happen if I'd say, well, God did it, like.
Well,
God.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to, show me the necessity of having a God do that, but it's just, it's just from ice core samples to radiometric data to, the geology to the, just everything points to the same answer. I think that the weight that Rebecca is giving the opposing view, the minority opinion, is a lot higher than the sheer amount of weight that all of these scientific disciplines have against it. It's kind of overwhelming, and I don't profess to be an expert in any of these disciplines, but it is incredibly, to say overwhelming would be an understatement. It's.
I mean, I'm sorry, but just think about this. Like in any academic field, like across all disciplines, there are all these cutting edge areas, and people are pushing the bounds of where our knowledge of a particular area. And it may be like, oh, folks at so-and-so university in the physics department discovered X nanotechnology, this discovery pushes our knowledge further forward of blah, 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 blah. So if somebody comes forward and says, so-and-so has now discovered that the Earth is actually 6,000 years old, do we expect that kind of stuff to be like folks at Harvard University have now discovered that the Earth is actually not 4.5 billion years old, but is 6,000 years old. Why are we hearing those things? Why are we hearing like Columbia University, Stanford, Caltech, all like where the top minds of the world? Why isn't anybody doing that? It's from Discovery Institute, the non-peer reviewed or pseudo peer reviewed journal. I guess I just don't understand that if it's actually this cutting edge thing, why isn't anybody who's an actual top end scientist publishing on any of this stuff?
Well, Jason, you mentioned Harvard. Are you familiar with Nathaniel Jensen? I believe he's got his PhD.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so he got his PhD at Harvard. So why wouldn't you take him seriously?
What's one of his publications?
Because
we don't care about the people. We care about what actually is. We can actually find out in real life.
Well, but like certainly being able to have like a set of researchers that are studying something and being like so and so's published some research in this particular topic, like I mean I know people are like, look, it's not about their institution or where they're from, etc. But if somebody from like a top end Ivy League publishes something on X and somebody else publishes something on Y, I mean. I'm going to look at both of them, obviously, but I mean, we provide some weight to levels of academic expertise in certain institutions. We do that. Not going to say that that means that they get carte blanche, just the check mark for the research. But I just don't understand why we're not seeing anybody like that from any other folks. Like why there are no Jesus researchers coming out at mainline research institutions.
Well, they probably have to be very careful.
Why?
Because they will be blacklisted, and.
But I don't understand why.
That makes it sound like a personal venture.
If it's true, then why would they be attacked like that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's legitimate research that can be supported and is published in a peer-reviewed journal, I don't think there should be any problem with that whatsoever. I mean, although I understand that some topics are very touchy, but nonetheless, I'm hearing an echo. Is it just me?
Yeah, it's indeed. I think.
Is it me again? Damn it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways,
I think it's also odd that you sort of talk about my worldview in influencing my my perspective. I guess I would use the word on sort of this scientific evidence, but I think I could. No offense, I could level the same thing for you, Rebecca.
Of course you could. And see, the difference between me and you is that I admit that my worldview colors what, I believe about this topic. But I don't think that you're admitting the degree to which your worldview is biasing your view with regard to evolution.
Oh, we're talking about evolution now?
You made a comment earlier, Rebecca, you made a comment earlier about how people get blacklisted and whatnot. Like, my understanding of the peer review process is that it's looking at the merits of the ideas that are being presented, with very little to no regard for who's presenting it. Now, of course, the credentials of the person can factor in on how seriously people are going to take it. And if somebody like Andrew Wakefield were to come along and present some new science, even in an unrelated field to vaccines and those kinds of medicines, I think a lot of people would question it, not because he's been blacklisted, but because he's ruined his own reputation by creating fraudulent studies and things like that. So I, in a sense, I guess that would be the closest we could get to somebody being blacklisted. That's not really blacklisted. And if his idea was, the new ideas were actually legitimate and good, then of course that wouldn't be a problem as far as I understand. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Mark or Jason, but that's kind of my understanding.
And I think I could use an excellent example along with the evolution that springs to mind, which was Darwin's studies, which were absolutely in the minority when they started, and vehemently argued against, and famously derided as bunk science. As it went along, more and more people sort of accepted the conclusions because it was accurate and did make excellent. There was an excellent scientific research that was eventually accepted. A lot of these ideas, especially in their fields, are very controversial and very, very heavily disputed. But as somebody presents a paper and gives evidence for it, these controversial ideas are accepted in science, and not because people decide that they want them. It's because the whole aim of science is to base things on merit, not on popularity or what makes you feel good, or any other thing than what is fact.
Right. And I would say right now we're in the stage with young earth creationism where if somebody comes out as a young earth creationist, it does ruin their reputation, right? So it is not an idea that's taken seriously, but whether or not there's a good reason for that, that is, I mean, I would question, the assumptions that are made, especially and let me put young earth creationism aside and say that the assumption right now in mainstream science, the assumption that evolution is true absolutely colors everything. And it's very hard to, if you don't hold that line, to get taken seriously, right? So, I mean, all I hear all the time is, oh, intelligent design. Oh, that's not scientific. That's not scientific, when it absolutely is. And, so, but anyway, I'm going to have to leave it at that. You guys can respond to what I said if you want, but I do have to get going. So I'll give you a chance to respond if you want.
Like mathematicians are
Have a
supposed to
great night, Rebecca.
take considering
Good night,
2
Rebecca.
+ 2 = 5 every time somebody brings it up, keeps on saying 2 + 2 = 5 throughout the years. Is it going to be any more true in the future?
No.
So there we go. Why?
Okay.
I think what Rebecca's trying to put forward here is the idea that, I guess, from the perspective of a young Earth creationists, that they feel that they're not getting equal billing in the scientific realm as evolution and other sciences get. I think it has to do with how things have been established in a merit-based way, though, and I think that's the bridge that's missing from the conversation.
Who's the founder of the intelligent design theory? I'm not saying it's a theory. I'm just using that term. But who
colloquially?
Who founded it?
I mean, it could be Michael Behe. I'm not really sure, actually.
Okay.
It could be
All right.
Stephen Meyer.
I think it goes back way further than that.
Oh, really?
Okay.
All right.
I think it goes.
Well, I think
he's the one who brought it to the forefront, but it's before him.
Well, I think that's a problem because it was the established conventional thinking before sort of the Enlightenment and scientific times, is that everyone was created by God, and especially way back in the sort of medieval times where everyone was not only created by God but put in their positions as peasant or noble or whatever by a deity. So I think sort of looking for the person who started that is a bit strange, if that makes sense.
I mean, traditional science does not recognize intelligent design as a legitimate theory. Like it's not taught in universities it might be. There may be some fringe locations that teach it, but it's traditionally not taught.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Good night, Rebecca.
Good night, Rebecca.
Fun
Thanks
discussion.
for speaking with us.
Right. See you.
Good night, Rebecca.
I like Rebecca.
Night.
You're breaking up, David.
Someone's roboting.
Yeah, David's roboting. So, okay, I found a little thing on recrystallization in sedimentary rocks. And basically what he's claiming is that the crystal should be like deformed, but that's not true because in metamorphosis, recrystallization in sedimentary rocks is very common. So, anyway. So am I echoing?
No, you're good.
Sound good now.
Okay. Okay, good. Trying to get my audio channels right, but and anyway, there's a little piece here, and I'll also link this site. It's let me see, where's it from? It is tulane.edu, and there's a bit on metamorphic rocks, and one of the things they talk about right away is recrystallization in sedimentary rocks, and one of the crystals that reform are micas, and I think Snelling's point was that the mica should be deformed along with the deformation of the rock, and I don't think that is technically true, but it would take a little more looking into. But looking into it for 5 minutes, I found that much, which is kind of an indication that we got a problem here, right? So anyway. So on Rebecca's complaint about intelligent design and creationism, I've seen papers that are rejected, and they're usually rejected because they will mention some sort of a overall conclusion or effort toward intelligent design, creationism, or biblical creationism in the abstract, and that is the quickest way to get rejected, is to do that. And I don't know if it should be that way, but I kind of suspect it is, because immediately you're going to doubt everything that follows. But any, like Sanford and Cell Cordova and a few others have produced papers where they have carefully not mentioned creationism or intelligent design, and their papers have gotten published. So I don't think it's automatic. I don't know.
I think the biblical reference makes sense because there's so many problems with things in the Bible. It's
Right.
not a good source for scientific information, like stating that I was just talking to somebody the other day about this. They claim pi is 3.0, not 3.14, on and on. And so, of course, that's going to be a problem. And there's other problems with it, right? So it's easy to debunk.
Yeah.
But you'll fail peer review for other bad citations. Like if you cite a website, for instance, with that is clearly not scientific, or you cite Wikipedia, for instance, like that's not going to pass peer review either.
But look,
depends how you're referencing it, I think. But yeah, if it's an important reference, important citation, I agree.
Yeah, but if it's something like Wikipedia, it's not going to pass because Wikipedia is compiled by ordinary people, or just it's a wiki. It's not a good reference source. It just isn't. And similarly, the Bible is not a good reference source. It just, unless it's on theology, of course, it's just not. Yeah.
Yeah, source methods is part of the whole research.
Go ahead, Snake.
Oh, I was done. I was just saying.
Oh, okay.
Did I break up or something?
I think you may have. I'm not sure if what you said got through. Not to my head, anyway.
I was just saying source methods are part of the whole legitimacy of, along with the research itself. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a horrible accusation, and I think that too we need to address and we need to think about, because we definitely don't want to do that. But if you mention in your abstract that you're going to rely on some biblical idea, then you're already admitting that methodological naturalism is out the window, right? And you're not going to get peer reviewed. You're not going to cut it. So I don't know. But it's a charge I'm tired of hearing. I don't know.
Well, a lot of people do level the same charge. Sort of flat earthers level the same charge, and people that believe in aliens level the same charge. It's a charge that's sort of aimed towards science, that they're picking on us kind of thing. And sort of if you learn the scientific methodology, that it's got nothing to do with a bias against any group or any people. It's got a bias towards the methodology itself.
Right. What if everyone who failed peer review made that same accusation? Everyone, right? Because there's a lot of papers that don't make it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's possible that there's a bias, but it's really just cherry picking because they'll trust the consensus of any other field.
I mean, come on. I was going to say not all of us, but all of us haven't had this happen. But like lots of people had this happen. I've had this happen. I submit a paper. They tell me it's the worst shit they've ever read in their life. I make 0 changes. I submit it someplace else. They tell me it's the greatest fucking paper they've ever read in their life.
Yeah.
So it just is what it is, man. Like, there probably is, like, it's not a perfect system.
It's a process.
Nobody's making a claim that the peer review process is perfect.
But it's the best we have.
Of course. And you would like to think that if the Earth actually was 6,000 years old, and somebody had compelling evidence that supports that, they would write it up, they would present it, and people would read it, and they would go, "What the fuck? What do we do? What can we do about this? All this evidence is pointing in these directions. We have a controversy."
And that's the whole point that I made. That's happened in the past.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Snake. Yeah.
Sorry. That element of like trial and error, where some publications will accept it, some others. Creationism has failed every trial
for their submittals. Yeah.
Decades.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
they don't believe it. I don't know.
I mean, if the Earth actually was 6,000 years old, and you're a biblical, you're biblical creationist, whatever, and the Earth is 6,000 years old, you should be able to write a publication. I'm not saying you should, but it's possible, if that's the case, to write a publication that addresses that doesn't mention the word Bible, that doesn't mention the word God, that has absolutely 0 mention of that. It's just the fucking science, and it's in like Nature. Like, why not? Well, I don't understand. Is it that we just don't have the ability to determine that? So we say, look, I don't have the ability scientifically to determine the Earth is 6,000 years old. I know it is because the Bible says it, but we just don't have the evidence. Therefore, we're not publishing it in Nature.
They want it both ways. They want the legitimacy of science, but they don't want to follow the process.
I agree with that. This is the thing that Otangelo does. Otangelo wants to talk about the necessity of God, but he also wants to talk about the probability. He wants to be like, it's improbable that life started through abiogenesis. It's so improbable that this other thing, God, is actually more likely. It's more likely that this happened than your thing. It's not even possible based on Otangelo probabilities. Abiogenesis is not even possible. Therefore, mine is possible. I'm like, wait a second. Are we dealing in a probabilistic assessment of this? So we're saying God could or possibly could or could not exist? He's like, no. God necessarily exists. I'm like, wait a second. How are we dealing with probabilities now? Well, I don't get it. So if we want to like just pick one side, scientific or whatever, I'm fine with that. But like the religious folks want to go both ways. And what suits their needs.
Yeah.
God is necessary sometimes. Other times they can scientifically prove God's existence. I don't know. Probabilistically, whatever.
Yeah, the probabilities on a protein, like suddenly forming de novo without any prior structure or pathway, it's so ridiculous, and they keep bringing it up. They keep making those calculations. And if you look into how proteins actually work, it's damned remarkable for a protein to be formed that doesn't have a function.
I mean, ultimately, if you think of
it's the opposite.
If you put yourself in Otangelo's mind and you're like, try to be Otangelo, don't laugh, no jokes. But you're like, you try to honestly like present the best view, most honest view of what Otangelo would have. His view has to be that when you look at a blueprint and when you look at the perfection of a blueprint, the right angles, how it fits together perfectly, how everything has a purpose and meaning, that perfection of interconnectivity cannot happen without a mind actually putting the parts together. Period. Can't happen. That's and you can go round and round with that, but that's his view. That can't. It's not possible. It's impossible for that to happen.
That sounds exactly like the old tornado in a scrapyard makes a jet argument. You know, that old chestnut. Sounds exactly the same.
Well, I mean,
you know how I feel about the blueprint argument, right? It's not a blueprint. It's not read by. Okay, a blueprint is put together by an intelligent mind, and it is also read by an intelligent mind. Okay, the blueprint that they see in DNA is not read by any intelligence. It's read by the zygote. That's what starts reading the blueprint. There is no blueprint, and blueprint thinking in DNA has set us back decades, basically. It doesn't work like a blueprint at all. You understand that, right? Or do you understand enough about how DNA actually works to understand that it is definitely not a blueprint? There is no instruction.
it's like one step removed from the blueprint.
Well, I've heard it more compared to computer code these days, kind of.
Well, not even that.
It's the way to create the blueprint.
I disagree with that. I'm just saying what's being said to me.
It's the foundational structures that allow you to generate the blueprint.
Yeah, anything
it's not
that
the blueprint itself.
Like computer code goes directly to the problem, right? And you directly address the problem at hand when you run a piece of computer code. When a piece of DNA is interacted with in the cell to say create a limb or some structure in the body, it doesn't go directly to drawing out that structure. It's very, in fact, it's mathematically impossible to model because the stochastic processes that are happening in order to actually for that limb to create have they're too complicated, right, for us to model, and they don't go directly to the problem. So you don't look at a piece of DNA and say, oh, this thing is going to build a limb. Well, that thing also builds your eyeball, and it has some metabolic function, and it's just very twisted, right? And so it would be like a super multi-dimensional chess game. And we don't design things that way. We don't design programs that way, and we don't design cars that way, like a multi-dimensional chess game. And cars do not create themselves.
I think the problem is we're trying to explain these enormously complicated procedures, and we kind of explain them in analogies. We sort of say, hey, it's kind of like it's like computer code. And they say, well, that's all designed kind of thing. But really, we're just trying to equate something that is complex with a simpler thing that we already know about. And to my mind, it's actually more like an instruction set than code, which is different altogether. But it's still an analogy. It's still not completely the same. We're just trying to explain it in a way that people can understand how it's working. It's like molecular machines. I mean, people have jumped on and said, hey, they're machines. And it's like, well, they're not machines as in, machines. We're trying to explain them in a way that you can understand what it is that they're doing.
I just see it as a like a scaffold, like a template scaffold.
What DNA or?
Yeah, DNA.
Molecular. Yeah.
And RNA.
Well, it's an odd thing.
It's about the complex between DNA and a bunch of other proteins too.
Yeah, it's like a crystal with a structure that when you roll a bunch of rocks onto it, it forms something. And that is not a blueprint. It doesn't. There's nothing you can read in the DNA that's going to tell you what a limb looks like. Okay, you have to go through the entire process to end up with a limb. There's no way to see the intelligence in DNA at all.
Top Dog, I'm sorry. Top Dog messaged me in the private chat saying I've been putting him down. I don't mean that, man.
Yeah.
I'm not. I honestly apologize.
No, we don't.
I don't mean to do that.
I can vouch for Jason on this. He's a good guy.
I apologize.
Okay. By the way, Wildheart wanted to get into the room, and Wildheart, I like you. I want to talk to you, but I want you to be stone cold sober when I do, and I don't think coming into my room is going to help you. So I feel bad about it, but I just don't want to. You've said some things that really concern me. Okay. So I can't do it. You know what I mean, Jason? You know what I'm talking about that he said that really concerns me?
What, Wildheart?
Yeah.
I don't know what he said, but I know he can say some concerning things. So
I'm very worried about him. You know, he hangs out, and I have no idea what's going on with him, but he doesn't belong in this room. So anyway.
I've seen him online a few times. He's looked like out of his mind.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like he's like Nick Cage in Leaving Las Vegas. I'm like, dude, you got to slow down, man.
Right, you got to slow down. Yeah, that's.
Well, I think.
My concern.
I mean, we don't know what's going on with somebody. I think sort of this is the wrong venue to bring it up.
Yeah, fair enough.
All the best
Yeah.
to Wildheart.
Well, he's an admitted alcoholic, and so am I. And I know I can look at him and I see myself in him 15 years ago. And it breaks my heart to see that kind of pain in a person, because I know what I went through, and I see that in him. But I can't help him here, and it just doesn't work that way.
He also opened up on Rebecca's channel on that same the one that we just reviewed. He was on that channel.
Yeah.
He opened up a little bit about his mental health and things like that. So. There's some concern there too. So
yeah, I'm concerned. Go ahead.
Do you think, given your experience, how important do you think it is when somebody does admit to it? Do you think it is a big part of progress?
You admit to it, but then you get numb to your admission, and part of your disease becomes your admission. I mean, like the horrible thing about alcoholism and drug and addiction is that almost anything you come up with will end up being part of your problem. And the only way to stop the cycle is to somehow miraculously sober up for a few days, for 24, 36 hours, and get your ass into a place where you talk to other people who have gone through the same thing. And then maybe magic will happen. But to be truthful, most of us die. Most of us die or continue to suffer for our entire lives. And that's just the way it is right now. And it's a bitch. So.
And addiction is not the problem. The problem is always something else. The addiction's a reaction to your problem, that your coping mechanism with that problem has become to numb it with some sort of substance.
Yeah, and that's kind of the case. That's kind of the case when you're sober, but after you start using, there's a repetitive cycle that the act of using makes you use more, and you can't break out of that cycle. And that's the whole problem. I mean, it becomes your dopamine reward system in your brain becomes commandeered by the addiction itself, and you become essentially mentally incapable of surviving. And that's a bit. And there's nothing like the people with the strongest intellect will end up having the toughest time sobering up, because they will outsmart them. The addiction and them together will outsmart themselves at every fucking point.
I still think it's a reaction to
initially
sort of. Well, initially, and it also, like when you're in addiction, you sort of have those feelings of shame and anger, and a lot of deep-seated feelings that it becomes so much easier to numb it with some sort of substance, and it almost works, but it never completely works, because then you've got to keep having that substance in order to feel just normal. Getting yourself, and I agree, I 100% agree, Speed, getting yourself into therapy, group therapy is fantastic, and addressing not only the problem with addiction, but also what the deep-seated, problems that every human has. Every human goes through stuff.
It sounds like it's multifaceted. Like there's a mental dependency, chemical dependency, probably physical habit kind of dependency gets built in, all kinds of things, I guess. And of course, like Mark was talking about, past trauma possibly being a motivator to get started in an addiction cycle in the first place.
Yeah,
could be a factor too.
But Mark, the first time I got drunk, the first time I got drunk, I was 2 years old, and I remember it. And I became blackout drunk. A man fed me Mogan David wine until I got smashed out of my mind. And the way I reacted to it, and this is the strangest thing, I went into my mom and dad's bedroom, and I spun myself around in circles to make myself drunker. And then I got sicker than hell, and I don't remember getting sick. I don't remember crying to my mom because I was crying because there were 2 Santas on TV. She said I was seeing double, apparently. But then, so that was like the very beginning of my life. Literally, I was 2 years old, and then I went on the wagon until I was 12. And when I rediscovered alcohol when I was 12 years old, I was super self-conscious in school, and I couldn't talk to anybody. And I was like, really, I was suffering because I had been considered a nerd, by my classmates. And I didn't know how to hold my face. And I got drunk, and I became the life of the party. And it was like I had discovered a magic elixir that was going to serve me for the rest of my life. And that was just the very beginning of the most hellish journey that you can imagine. It's just, but anyway, that's where it started. And the thing, thing was my depression.
Side effects were addictive too.
Yeah, my depression, my bipolar, everything basically fed into the problem, and it became worse, so that the drug made my depression worse, and my depression made the drug worse. And you get into a cycle, and it's unbelievable that anybody recovers at all from this shit.
Did your parents know when you were around 2 years old that that guy was feeding you alcohol?
My mom found out, and my dad threw him out of the house.
Oh,
his name was Hood. Huh? What was that?
Was he trying to kill you by poisoning or what?
No, he thought it was funny.
Oh, he was just a jerk. Okay.
Oh, and I remember the taste of that Mogan
hilarious.
David wine. I'll never forget the taste of it. I have a lifelong love of grape juice because of the taste of that wine. And I mean, that's a stunning experience to have, and to remember. So, but
hey, Leo.
Hey, Leo.
Howdy.
Loved your debate the other day. It was fantastic.
Oh, yeah, thank you. That went a lot better than I expected it to go. Like, this guy had no fucking clue what he was talking about. Like,
flat Earth.
I don't know how else. Yes, I don't know how else to say it. This guy was clueless.
Yeah. I had to not listen to that. I got enough problems with creationists.
Leo, how'd you get hooked up with him?
MD James asked me if I wanted to do a 1v1 on the flat Earth with him, and I was like, sure.
Oh yeah, that's how I got my flat Earth debate too. I really want to debate Witsit though, because I don't know. I got a bone to pick with him.
He's something else. I mean, he really is. He's something else.
Well, I debated him, and I was teamed up with Jen, which was an interesting experience.
You guys do well.
Conversation, yeah.
It wasn't my finest debate. I'll give it that. I'll tell you that right now. But yeah, I did okay. It's just it was kind of 3v1. If you know.
Snake was right. Did you evolve into an ET?
It's a snake with sunglasses.
He's one of the lizard people that controls the world.
Yeah, I know. I'm just joking around. You look a little bit like ET right now.
So if you take that theory, the reptilians are the ETs, which control everything. So, yeah.
Yep, the good old Anunnaki.
But
so you have the Anunnaki who live in the hollow Earth and control everything. It's like, yeah, totally.
They control the vaccine.
Oh,
the Earth's not flat; it's hollow.
The latest vaccine news I read is that anti-vaxxers in London went to a Apple store to throw eggs at it because they think Bill Gates is behind the vaccine.
They don't know Bill Gates is Microsoft.
Right.
Right.
Bill Gates could be on their side. No.
Yeah, that's
so apparently a few of them videoed it with their iPhones, which is hilarious. You know, it's like, wow, this cannot get any more ironic.
I have got to look this up.
I got a question for you, Mark. Have you seen the movie? Have you seen the movie Don't Look Up yet?
Yes, I saw it the other day. It's fantastic.
It is.
Fantastic.
So good.
I just watched that.
Hey, I saw it for the second time last night. It's even better the second time through. I watched it with my sons on New Year's Eve, and that movie is, it's frightening because it's a parody that in some ways, it's not really a parody. It's what we're doing.
Yeah,
you know,
literally right now. Yeah, the asteroid is just a euphemism for a metaphor for climate change. In this movie, that's literally what it is. Like, this is hurling towards us as we speak, and it's about to fucking kill us all. We all know it, and we're doing nothing. We're just like,
hashtags, whatever. Yeah. Oh my God.
It's like, did you see the stock market today? It's doing fantastic. Come on.
Yeah,
the one part where Jonah Hill's like, "Oh no, we're gonna get rich when the world ends." Oh, it's so bad. His role is so perfect in that movie.
But that's like when they talk about the cost of climate change, and it's like, what is really? How much will it cost to save all our lives?
But realistically, wouldn't the stock go down if there was some kind of immediate threat from space?
I don't think so. If like people like Musk came out and was like, yeah, but look at all the resources because that one gray-haired guy in the movie, that's Musk. That's supposed to be fucking Elon Musk, the guy that wants to mine the fucking asteroid and everything. That is 100 motherfucking% an Elon Musk move. And then Tesla shares would fucking skyrocket.
Does anybody realize that yesterday and the day before we had a wildfire in snow-covered Colorado that destroyed, I think, thousands of homes with 100-mile-an-hour leaping wildfire in Colorado, and people were wearing overcoats and tassel caps, and I'm looking at it. It's like, what does not compute here? How in the fuck do you have a wildfire in a snow-covered region?
Oh shit!
I drove right
in the middle of winter.
This sounds like something straight out of South Park.
Minnesota.
I broke the dam.
No.
Oh, I love that episode, Randolph. At the end, when Stan is trying to be all serious and everybody's just like, I broke the dam. I broke the dam. And Stan, I literally broke the dam. I crashed the boat into the dam. I fucking broke it.
And even Cartman stood forward and told the truth and smiled about it. Oh, it was so good.
That is one of my favorite fucking scenes. It's just, I broke the dam. I broke the dam. No, I literally broke the dam.
I'm Spartacus. It's what it makes fun of, obviously.
I know.
So good. That was so well done. The stupid beaver dam they're relying on. Like, I mean, it's stupid to rely on it. I mean,
and how they made it like it was this terrible thing, and then they did the parody. I might be thinking of a different episode. No, is that the episode where they parody A Day After Tomorrow? And Randy and all them are like wearing the like winter clothes, and they're trying to like act like there's this blizzard going on outside, and it's just like normal fucking temperature.
Total psychosomatic going on.
They needed to blame the beaver dam breaking, and they blamed it on like climate change and all this shit.
Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Egg throwing anti-vaxxers attack Bill Gates' Apple store. Oh man, it doesn't get any better than this.
What you don't know is Bill Gates the manager of that store, Apple.
Holy shit! Oh, I gotta send this to my sons. After Don't Look Up, this is the perfect, topping, the perfect dessert topping. I will put a link in the description, and I think I will put it in public chat. So anyway, but I mean, if a wildfire in snow-covered Colorado doesn't scare the shit out of us, I don't know what's gonna. I mean, it's in
not
Minnesota,
being able to make a lot of money.
We had a tornado in December, for God's sake. December 15th, we had a tornado, and we had like 60 to 100-mile-an-hour winds here. And like if somebody had lit a match, Minnesota would have burned to a crisp, and there would have been nothing but snow left. The snow-covered forest floor. It's like, what in
So
the fuck is
they've
going
gone
on?
from throwing pies to throwing eggs now.
Oh yeah.
I'm showing here a picture of when Bill Gates got a pie in the face in public, which was totally ridiculous, but someone sure didn't like him.
Oh my goodness.
I'll never forget the guy that threw his flip flops at George Bush.
Oh yeah, and he
that,
threw
that
one.
one is.
And Bush Jr. avoided both of them.
Yeah, he's just like.
There was a guy in New Zealand who had a dildo thrown at him. It was hilarious. Like,
and just imagine getting slapped in the face with this just big purple dildo, just right.
Junior, of course, he's smirking after he avoids both of them. Like, it's so cool. Hey, this is fun. You got any more to throw at me?
Okay,
good old game of whack-a-bush.
It was 500 homes, not 5,000. So, but still,
that's still a shit fucking pile. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it burned some communities, I think, to the ground. But they showed film of it. The wildfires were like leaping, like 100 feet at a time, just flying and burning this, like dry grass and all the stuff we have in the winter. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of freaked out. I don't know.
They were trying to keep us off the highways, and I ended up basically being directed to drive pretty much right through.
Really?
The outskirts of the fire.
So the thing is, what we need to do is we need to keep you guys away from the fire. So we're gonna have you drive right alongside it here. So yeah,
pretty much.
Do you know what it was? I think it was caused by dope smokers in Colorado, right?
Is that what they're saying?
No, I don't know. Just guessing.
Are you sure it wasn't Trump supporters lighting off fireworks in the woods? They've done that before.
It was in all this dry brushland, like between Boulder and this other town.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
it just all went up.
Well, it's gone now.
Yeah, and then it dumped like 2 feet of snow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And then, and my brother in Austin, Texas, told me today that the temperature is going to go from like 71 degrees down to below 32 tonight. So they're getting that weird thing that happened last year when they had all the power outages.
Oh,
and like we have just bitter cold right now, and it's pushing all the way to Texas. It's like that never happened before. So
nope.
-8 right here. I'm gonna get cold tonight.
And before the fire started going up, there were all these trucks getting blown over. It was like apocalyptic. The sky was like all blackened out.
Winds were like 100 miles an hour. Was that what I heard?
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Fucking Christ.
Wow. You can imagine how incredibly bad that would be. Damn. So I let my cat out today, and he went outside and then immediately did a U-turn and came through the cat door. He was like, nope, I'm not doing it.
We are such fragile creatures. Like anything goes wrong and society just goes.
Yeah, if my internet
That's all I was thinking on the drive home.
Yeah, if my internet if our internet goes down in the house, me and my son meet each other in the middle floor and we just look at each other like, what the fuck are we going to do now? What's the meaning of life? We have no meaning. Get the Bible.
So, Mark, what's the temperature where you're at?
Currently it's 28, but it's in the morning. It's probably going to get up to 30 something.
Okay. You lucky
The other day it was 44, I think, which is, 111 in Fahrenheit from memory.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
That's Australia, man. Fucking Australia.
Holy shit.
Like, dude, never go to Australia, because the minute you get off the plane, if you just look at somebody wrong, dude's gonna look at you and be like, oh, you want to fight, mate? You want to fucking go? Just right off the bat. Like, somebody's gonna be trying to fight you. That's just the way it goes. Because if it isn't people fighting you, you got spiders squaring up like, let's go. What's up? Or you got kangaroos. Or dingoes, man, stealing your baby? Like, holy fucking shit.
Or Mexican drop bears. Oh, sorry.
Drop bears, yeah. Hoop snakes. Yeah, Leo talking like someone who's never been to Australia.
I know. I really would like to go to Australia. I think it would just be an awesome place to go visit.
It's nice.
Pine trees.
It's very nice.
Your pine trees are going to explode.
I do want to see a lot of, like, the wildlife that they have down there. I just think that'd just be some of the coolest fucking shit to see.
Yeah, man.
I was just looking at a terpene that boils at melts at 44 degrees centigrade.
A terpene, huh?
Terpene.
Like terpene that you find in marijuana terpene, or
well, there's terpenes in marijuana. There's terpenes in all plants, but what pine trees are.
So I have a question, Pete. Are there terpenes in these?
What? Oh my God, Leo, what is that?
Are there terpenes in this? I know there's some other things in this.
No, there probably aren't terpenes in there, but
Jason,
okay,
do you know
Leo,
if there's terpenes in this?
Leo, send it to me and I will analyze it for you.
Oh, will you? Will you analyze it for me?
I'm gonna need 7 grams.
My analyzer, see, it only works. I gotta have 7 grams in it for it to be able, to have a solid sample. So maybe send me 2. Maybe send me just like 14, so that we could do it twice.
Just
really
in case.
Because you never know what happens.
Yeah, because heroic is hard to attain. The heroic dose, right?
Never done one of
Bill
those.
Hicks of heroic ghosts. Bill Hicks,
you haven't heard about that?
I've never done one. No.
Have you heard about that, Mark?
What's that?
There's a guy called Kafai that comes on all the time, and he says that you will become you'll convert from an atheist to a believer if you take a heroic dose of mushrooms. And a heroic dose is defined as, for him, it's like fucking ridiculous. It's like nobody in their right mind would take that much of that shit. It's like,
no, you'd have to be that. Fuck no.
Yeah.
Why would you think something is real when you're tripping on mushrooms? Like, why would you think that describes reality better? Yeah.
I shared a video on Rage's stream last night showcasing what my first time doing LSD was like. It was the pink elephants on parade scene from the original Dumbo, and we got copyright struck. Ooh. Because I shared a video on YouTube that was from YouTube.
What do we got here? What the hell?
Oh shit, I love it. Oh, I love it.
Oh, he does a short speech right after this. It's really good. This is 2 minutes altogether. This is the whole video.
Yeah. So what if the guy threw a shoe at me? No, I consider it an important step on the road toward an Iraq that can sustain itself, govern itself, and defend itself. But let me talk about the guy throwing the shoe. It is one way to gain attention.
Yeah.
It's like going to a political rally and having people yell at you. It's like driving down the street and have people not gesturing with all 5 fingers. It's a way for people to draw, attention. I don't know what
is he even saying?
But one thing is for certain, he caused you to ask me a question about him.
What the fuck, dude? What is he even talking about?
Threatened by it. These journalists here were very apologetic. They were, said this doesn't represent the Iraqi people, but that's what happens in free societies where people try to draw attention to themselves.
You're saying that individual does not.
I guess he was effective because he caused you to say something about it. Now, in terms of the agreements, this is a major achievement. Is it the end? Absolutely not. There's more work to be done. And, all this basically says is we made good progress, and we'll continue to work together to achieve.
This guy,
peace.
I don't know how the fuck he became president.
Freedom and
I really
peace.
don't.
And so I'm honored to be back here. It's my 4th visit to Iraq, and as a sitting president, and I have been looking forward to this visit.
And you threw shoes at me every time.
It's very kind of you, Mr. Prime Minister, to have invited me here.
Oh yeah! Oh wow! Holy shit! Oh, that's
one of my favorite quotes from good old GW. He's like, so there's a saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that goes, fool me once, shame on.
Yeah, I have problems like that too. So
shame on
why
you.
is it so bad for somebody just because he's the president?
You fool me, we can't get fooled again. And then that's just it. I'm just like, holy shit, this guy. Oh, fuck.
Just because he's the president doesn't mean he can't have brain farts.
Well, yeah, but it's not that George W. Bush had brain farts so much as it is that he was just a fucking idiot.
Well, the sheer amount.
There's an old saying in Tennessee. I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, can't get fooled again." Yeah,
I fucking love it. He told me we can't get fooled again.
He's got another one. There's a whole collection of quotes from him. Here's one. Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across the country.
Oh my God! You know, the thing was,
they were a thing.
You forgot some words, like I do.
From 2016 until 2020, I really missed George Bush. I really wanted him back. I was just like, please, we'll settle for Bush.
Just for fun. I made up.
How about this one? Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we.
Yeah. There's one I made up, but a lot of people don't believe I made it up. It goes like this: you can catch more flies and honey with vinegar than you can with fleas. There were some
more flies with honey and vinegar than you can with
that on Google Plus. There were a couple of guys fighting about which public place they heard him speaking and saying it at.
That suggests he said it more than once.
I'm gonna laugh, Randolph, when you find a clip of GW saying exactly that.
We need to get some Motifake stuff going on for that.
No shit. Well, who's got access to the deep fake technology?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the lizard person right now. Come on, Snake. Bust it out.
I'm not saying anything.
Nah.
Well, guys,
I can't give up that kind of technology.
I'm feeling like shooting it in the head now pretty quick.
I'm about to shoot myself in the head, but it won't be with a gun.
Well, okay, we'll discuss that later, Leo. But I think we're going to end the stream.
Want one more Bush quote?
Oh yeah.
Every day I think about Al Qaeda. Every day I think about protecting this country. I mean every day, except for Sunday.
What? Oh, that's comforting.
Sunday's my time.
That is comforting.
Sunday, that's George's time. Sunday's George.
Well, 6 out of 7 days a week isn't bad.
Yeah, right, for the president to protect our country. I'm glad I didn't hear that while he was still in office.
So terrorists, if you want to attack on a Sunday. All right. Well, it was fantastic to be here. Thanks so much, Speed. I really appreciate it, man.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming. You're welcome anytime. I asked you to contact me by email.
I put my email in there.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll grab that. Anyway, guys, we're going to end the stream. Going to shoot her in the head, and I'm trying to find there's a cat in front of my stuff, and I can't. Okay. Goodbye, crew world.
Good.